Because the most powerful nations in the world have to go down to their knees. That's what happened to Egypt. That's what's going to happen to America. That's what's going to happen to Germany. That's what's going to happen to France. That's what's going to happen to London. England's going to happen to Poland. That's what's going to happen to Russia. That's what's going to happen to China. That's what's going to happen to North Korea. They're all going to go down to their knees and all see Hashem. But as long as they keep helping us, they'll get a bracha. And they're not going to go down their knees. They're going to get a little more time. You guys want more time? I don't want more time. So you understand, when I hear they're friends with us, they're just perpetuating more of this status quo. They're all going to go down. They're all going to go down to their knees, and especially the Western ones. The Zohar says that they're going to go down hard for how they treated us over the last 2,000 years. For the destruction of the Second Temple and how they treated us, Hashem's going to take them down hard.
But of course, that was taken out of context. It's very important to remember that when men like Yom Tov Glasser, who is a senior rabbi in Jerusalem, when they say stuff like that, it's taken out of context, always, 100% of the time. It's never just something that you can take on face value. It's never something that just kind of speaks for itself. And in fact, when, let's just say, leaders of Muslim countries or prominent figures in Islam say stuff like that, well, then you have to take it literally. But never these guys. Never these guys, for some reason. Not sure why that is. Anyway, hey everybody, how's everybody doing? Welcome back, welcome back. We got a very good show for you today. Lots of exciting stuff happening in the world today. Lots of exciting stuff happening with this channel, and we're going to get into it. But before we do that, I have some gifts that I wanted to share with everybody. This was... And by the way, I can appreciate why folks are cautioning me against having a P.O. box. I understand having any kind of physical address associated with me is a problem. But understand that as far as I'm concerned, if Mossad doesn't already have a file on me, a half a mile long, and also direct GPS coordinates of my exact location at all times, well, you know, what exactly are they spending my tax dollars on? You know, come on. I would appreciate if you're going to steal money from me and use it to surveil me, you actually do a halfway decent job. So I'm not really that worried about me having a P.O. box and that putting me on the map in any way. But anyway, as a result of putting up that P.O. box, check this thing out. Move the mic out of the way. Look at this thing. Just once again validating that Mamba is the only reason that any of y'all are turning in. And I don't blame you, honestly. She's probably very... Yeah, there she is. She's very upset with me for talking through her nap. You'll notice that I made an executive marketing decision to put the merch right above Mamba, since that's what everyone is watching anyway. Also, I got these, which are cat coasters with little cat buttholes on. Do you see this? This is a coaster with a booty hole on it. Somebody. And there's one for each of them. There's one for Mamba, and one for Malachi, and one for Monty. Someone was very thoughtful in picking these out. I've already ingratiated Mamba's with hers. It already smells like her, so she absolutely loves it. What else did I get? Oh, by the way, I do not endorse this book. I've never read this book. I don't know anything about this book necessarily, but somebody sent me a copy of this book in particular, which has, I think, inspired me to do a video on Henry Ford at some point. because I think he's a really interesting character. I think he's a very polarizing character because, I think a lot of people recognize him as being fairly progressive for his time. I believe that he treated his African American employees very well, and that he pushed forward better working conditions, better pay for his employees. But at the same time, he had some opinions that got him into some trouble. So anyway, not an endorsement, YouTube, just a gift from somebody that I think is very interesting, and I'm interested in looking into it. I'm not going to say the title. Someone's asking for the title. I will show it here, and you can look it up. But I'm not trying to flag the stream within the first 5 minutes. I also received this, which is not. This was not a gift from a member, but I did recently decide to start attending OCIA, which I know will alienate a lot of my Orthodox viewers. I haven't ruled out exploring Orthodox Christianity, but it just so happens that there's a Catholic church very close to me, and when I opted to go in and sign up, the director of the OCIA gave me this look at the size of this thing. And there's just a ton of notes in here. Anyway, so not from a viewer, but still a gift, still something that I wanted to express gratitude for. I almost forgot. One more, and then we'll get to the stream. Somebody, the owner and proprietor of the Taco Rack at www.tacorack.com. This is a stainless steel taco boat, and they sent me a bunch of them in different sizes. They're for holding tacos. So anyway, not a sponsorship. They didn't pay me anything, but they did send me some free shit. So I figured I would give them a quick plug. Thank you very much, my friend. Very, very cool. We will be using them in the near future. Hang on. One other thing. During the last live stream, I gave out some free merch. Only 2 people have claimed their free merch so far. The third person has not, and I don't know what to make of that. So if you are the third person who has not claimed your free merch, please follow up with me. I think I emailed you, and I just never heard back from you. So let me know about that. Anywho's, we will get to Europe, but I just wanted to ask, and I took a poll at the beginning here, who watched the Great Debate yesterday? Yeah, half of the people that voted in the poll had watched the Great Debate, and I would be remiss if I didn't talk about it at least a little bit, since it's kind of a big deal right now. So how to summarize the Great Debate? This is how I summarized it yesterday during it. It was a shit show. The Great Debate between Pickles Wilson and Candace Owens. It did not go well for Mr. Pickles. I'm actually pretty happy with that picture. I slapped that up mid debate. I thought it was pretty good, but it did not go very well. Just to briefly cover some of the highlights. I know a lot of people didn't watch it, and honestly, if you didn't watch it, you didn't miss that much. Was it entertaining? Definitely. Was there basically anything of substance that was talked about? No, not even a little bit. It was 90% just arguing semantics, just arguing the definition of terms, and it was very boring from that perspective. If you were going into it hoping to learn something about the case and learn something about the positions that these two people hold, you would have been disappointed. And I was disappointed. But there were a few noteworthy takeaways that I thought we would talk about real quick. Here's the first one. Here's the one that I thought was pretty noteworthy. Am I muted?
Yeah. So when I say Erica's, listen, that's my opinion. When you tweeted Erica's too retarded to kill her husband, would you like to explain how you developed your evidence, your positive evidence for the fact that Erica was retarded?
Yeah, sure. So
Yeah.
I just think all women are retarded.
Oh, so you're allowed to just say stuff. Who knew? Yes.
So that that basically summarizes the whole debate as far as I'm concerned. It was just a lot of this chuckle fuck having absolutely nothing of substance to say. Yeah, well, mostly true. Okay. What was up next? Yeah, the other thing that I thought was kind of interesting was the issue of stolen valor. So, for those that aren't aware, years back there were back and forth between
What's that?
Andrew.
Army?
I was in the Army for a very limited amount of time, years and years ago.
How long was that very limited amount of time, if you don't mind me asking?
It wasn't very long, about a year.
Yeah, so did you serve, Andrew?
I did not, no.
Yeah, so did you serve, Andrew?
I did not, no.
So there's absolutely no evidence that has been furnished that this guy ever served in the armed forces, from what I'm aware. Yeah, because you can see on this form, I don't know, it's kind of hard to see, but it says active duty start date not applicable, active duty end date not applicable. Basically, this guy. I know I talk a lot of shit about the U.S. government. I know I talk a lot of shit about U.S. military intervention, but I do take very seriously stolen valor. I've worked with a lot of vets and people who have been destroyed physically, emotionally, spiritually, psychologically. Stolen valor is one of the scummiest, shittiest imaginable things that a human being could possibly do. And not because I believe that the wars that these men and women fought were for the right reasons or had good outcomes, but because I have worked with many of these men and women, and they are absolutely butchered and mistreated. And to take this cheap, supposedly easy win of claiming that you were in the military, when it is so easily disproven, it's so easy to show that it wasn't true, it's one of the stupidest things that you could possibly do, as far as I'm concerned. And so that came up during the debate because it was a big deal. And in fact, what was it, 15 years ago, or some obscene amount of time, where is it? Where's the tweet? Yeah, so this is his wife. His wife publicly said back in 2012, sometimes it comes really handy to have a husband who is a master gunsmith and Army sniper. Now, folks, I want to ask you, is there any ambiguity in Army sniper? Do the words Army or sniper mean anything other than fucking Army or sniper? In your experience, have you ever heard anyone use those words other than what they literally mean? Well, apparently, those are colloquial terms, as we will see here.
You, I think, have said on a platform that you were a gunsmith.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And for how many years?
Many, many years.
For many years. You also said that you were an Army sniper.
I wasn't a sniper in the Army.
Okay.
And I never said that. by the
Sorry,
way.
your wife tweeted that you were an Army sniper.
Yeah, I don't know. Like 15 years ago, she said something.
Does it
She said
change
that
15 years later?
She said that it was colloquial. So
Army sniper is a colloquial term?
Yeah, I was never an Army sniper.
Okay. What did you do in the Army? Did you teach this? She then I corrected it and said you taught rifles in the Army?
No, I didn't teach rifle. No, I taught rifles as a private citizen.
Okay.
Possible.
You, I think,
So, anyway, I don't want to linger on that for too long. Actually, hang on, real quick. Super chat, give you a shout out here. Disabled vet here. Those who know don't talk. Those who don't know won't shut up. Exactly. The overwhelming majority of vets that I've ever known are very, very reticent to talk about. Reticent as in hesitant, like they are not thrilled about talking about their service. The overwhelming majority. I've worked with Marines, I've worked with Air Force pilots, I've worked with all manner of different people with all manner of different, even just like the military techs, like the engineers. They don't want to talk about that. It's always the people like this who want to piggyback off of that can't stop talking about it. Anywho's. I did not serve. Just to be clear, if this is in reference to me, I did not serve. I worked with vets. I worked within the VA system for many years. I helped vets do their disability and pension. The DBQs. I'm already tongue tied. I have not served in the Army. I have family that's been in the military, and I've worked with vets. That's all. Yeah. Same here. Most of us vets only speak with other vets. Yeah, exactly. And even me, like what I did was I worked for a company called oh man, why am I blanking on the name of the company? Actually, you know what? I don't want to share the name of the company. It might provide a way for people to look me up. But I worked within the VA system helping vets get their post-service exit exams so that they could receive disability compensation. And so I worked with especially a lot of vets with PTSD and with severe back issues, a lot of Vietnam vets with Agent Orange exposure. I think there was another super chat up here that I wanted to touch on real quick. Folks, I see your supers. I will come back to them later. But anyway, let's move on. So point being, stolen valor is such an easy thing to avoid doing. I can't believe that there are people that still do it, even in the day of the internet now, where you can just look stuff like this up and it's not hard to do. The next bit here, this I think was the most damning piece of the entire debate. This was the gut punch. This was the thing that ruined him in my mind.
Yeah, I'm fine with closings if you want to do closings.
Well, I also would just, if I may ask a question, which one of the charges against, or all of them, do you think Tyler Robinson is guilty of?
The specific charge?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I think is that Tyler Robinson shot Charlie Kirk.
Yeah, but of the 7 charges that he's being charged.
Yeah. Can we list them real quick? I'll tell you exactly which ones. We'll pull them up.
Well, do you know any of the charges that he's up for right now?
Yeah, of course. But I
Can you-
want to
can you
make sure
name
that we
one?
have them listed.
Yeah, but like can you name one? Because my general perspective is that you don't actually care about this case. You're not following
Is that
the
it?
case.
That's the
Yeah.
question. You're
Yeah,
just not
but, I mean,
following it
seems,
enough.
It seems pretty, like, if you're going to engage and you're going to say the evidence is overwhelming that Tyler Robinson is guilty, I just think that you should, like,
All right.
can you tell me one
Then let's do the
charge that
counter.
he's...
You can really, no, this is a great gotcha.
No. You just got to ask me, play
Yeah.
clips out of context,
Yeah,
put me
yeah.
in the hot seat. So please just answer the
This
question.
is fair.
Can
Name
you
all
name-
7
can
since
you-
you've been following the case.
Okay, sure.
Go ahead.
You name one.
Yeah, you named all 7.
I'm happy to do that, but can you name one?
I think he's.
This was the moment that he knew he had fucked up. This was the moment that he knew, oh no, she actually knows them and I'm cooked. But he persisted, to his credit, I guess. He
I
persisted.
think he's been charged with murder.
That's actually incorrect.
Okay, great. Now name all 7.
He doesn't even, this is like...
You
Name
see his
all
hand
7.
shaking?
And I...
Do you see his hand trembling there? This is his problem, is that he kept on, like, his leg was fidgeting the entire time and he kept extending his hand out away from his body so that everyone could see, first of all, his little pasty, flabby arms, but then also his... I shouldn't talk. I need to hit the gym. But
Charged with murder.
That's actually incorrect.
Okay, great. Now name all 7.
He doesn't even...
you see him shaking? You see, he's like, oh no, I goofed. Like, his only tactic here is to put pressure on her and, like, berate her and hope that that does enough to dislodge the information that she's been memorizing for the last 11 months.
This is like...
Name all 7.
And I
Can
I
you
think
name all 7?
I can.
Then do it.
The first charge is aggravated murder because that's what carries
Okay.
a death sentence
So
in the
murder.
state of Utah. No,
Next.
that's not. That is literally not murder.
Okay.
Literally not. Where are my true crime people? Like, no, it's not the same thing.
The second charge is the felony discharge of a weapon. The next 2 charges are for obstruction of justice.
Okay.
The next 2 charges are for witness tampering. And the
What's
final,
the specific charges, though?
that is them. Obstruction of justice,
Both of
obstruction
those-
of justice, witness tampering, witness tampering.
Okay, wait, and there's no other specifics to them.
Well, I can tell you why he's being
No,
charged
no,
with
no.
it.
Just the charges and then 7?
Yeah, see, the bad thing is when you try to be an a-hole and it doesn't work.
What's the 7th?
The last charge is violence in front of a minor.
Okay, got it.
So this would have been the right moment to say, all right, fair point. You know your stuff. good. But he couldn't help himself. He just couldn't. He just couldn't let it go.
I think your team would like to pull up the 7 charges that he just asked you about. If you guys want to pull that up, just to confirm. for
Aggravated
the-
murder, felony discharge of a firearm, obstruction of justice, which is counts 3 and 4, 5 and 6, tampering with a witness, and count 7.
Violent
I said offense in the presence of a
in front of
minor.
a child.
I did notice something. I just was curious about. If I'm just wondering, when you pulled out your phone just before you asked that question, did somebody by chance text you that question?
You can check my phone.
I'm just curious.
No, you can absolutely not. I have not had one communication with a single person, not even my producers who are in there this whole time we were here. You want to check my phone? I'm happy to take it.
Let's see it.
if anyone was texted at all during this debate.
You give me permission. so
You
I'm
have
looking at
full
the- I'm not gonna
permission to
give
go through
names.
my phone. I don't need to
So
cheat.
the last one has nothing to do with it. It's just a compliment.
I haven't even read my text messages.
That's
so
a compliment.
He's reading them.
You're okay. You'll give me permission. I'm
Yes.
just going to read 3 of them
Yes.
to 11:32 because after that, I don't need to read it.
And you know their texts. Could have been Telegram. Could have been something.
All
like
I
that.
have is Signal. You can check that too. I only have Signal. I don't need to I
Okay.
deeply care about this case. I don't need to
I
pretend
get
to
it.
know
If you
stuff that
deeply
I
care
don't
about
know.
the case, I
Yeah.
just, I have my other question is about the steakhouse receipt.
Like, who here is a fan of Louis Rossman? One of my favorite things that Louis likes to say is, if you're gonna be a bitch, be the whole bitch. If you're gonna do something like this, if you're gonna totally fall on your face, at least have the, like, I would have had so much more respect for him, which isn't saying much. Like, the bar is extremely low, but I would have had so much more respect for him if in this moment he had said, you know what? You're right. And he can't do that because the whole debate is predicated on the idea that he is it's overwhelming. The case against Tyler Robinson is overwhelming. So he can't do that. But if he were an honorable man, what he should have done maybe was to acknowledge, like, wow, yep, you're right. You do know this. You do know your stuff. But he can't. He can't do that. He can't bring himself to do that. Anyway, we did actually receive some, when I say we, I mean Forbidden Clothing. By the way, Forbidden Clothing, sponsor me. Come on, guys. What are we doing here? I love your stuff. Forbidden Clothing managed to find a secret camera in the hotel room, in Andrew Wilson's hotel room after the debate, and we have that footage here for you now.
Andy, baby, no, stop. It's okay. It's okay.
It was bad! It was bad! Eric is gonna kill me! Ben is gonna kill me!
Now I'm assuming that they had that, like, they had their finger on the trigger. They had that ready to go, like the minute that the debate ended. But even still, Forbidden, just 10 out of 10. You guys put out some bangers. Totally worth the RAM prizes. You know, I believe that as long as we're creating stuff like this, it's totally worth the RAM prizes and also just the complete destruction and degradation of the environment. As long as we can keep putting out videos like this, it's good enough. And there was a lot of copium after the debate. There was a lot of people saying, oh, he actually, just absolutely devastated Candace. But here's the thing, is that Polymarket disagreed. Polymarket, you see here, this right here, that little spot right there is when the debate was going on. And then afterwards, the odds of Tyler Robinson being convicted of homicide tanked 5 points. And that don't lie. That right there do not lie. So anyway, I didn't want to linger on this too much, but I figured I would give like 10, 15 minutes to talking about the debate. It was interesting. I will say, though, again, if what you were ultimately interested in was truth-seeking and actually learning about the case and learning about that situation, I would recommend that you instead go and watch this episode of the Julian Dory show. with Barron and I forget the other guy's name. This guy on the left here. This was an amazing conversation, 4 hours long. I think the other guy is a forensics expert, and Barron is obviously an expert on. He's a lawyer. So having the two of them go through, I love how they made this clickbait thumbnail, like these two are disagreeing with each other. It was the most amicable, friendly, courteous, professional conversation between experts that I've seen on the internet, I think, in years. It was amazing. And if you wanted to learn more about the details of yeah, I know. Yeah, sorry. It was so good. Like I honestly, like, I had seen the first episode with Barron, which was also very good, which was mostly just talking about Barron and his background, which was great. Like, it was a lot of stuff about Barron that I didn't know. Oh yeah, like Julian needs me to shout him out. Yeah, I see this. Like Julian does not need me to shout him out. But this was such a great conversation just from, this is what I wish that debate had been. Right. I wish that the debate had been something even slightly closer to what this conversation was. A death investigator? Bro, that is a badass job title. A death investigator. Yeah, exactly. The title is misleading because they might like disagree on like terms, but it's mostly like Barron asking this guy questions. He's like, so in your experience, would blood move in this way, or do you think the hole in Charlie's shirt was a hole or was it blood? It was mostly like Barron like asking this guy exploratory questions about the case. It was amazing. Anyway, forensic pathologist. That sounds, yeah. I also prefer Julian over Sassy Joe now. Dude, Joe is so disappointing now. Forensic medic, whatever this guy's job title is. He's somebody, he was such a cool guy. He was a very, very cool guy. And I really recommend checking out this episode. If you're interested in the case, if you want to learn more about it, or just go watch anything that Baron Coleman's been doing for the last year. And this is exactly why I haven't really waded into the conversation surrounding Charlie Kirk, because I watch Baron and he's doing such a great job. I'm like, what exactly am I going to add to this conversation? Baron is killing it, man. So I would highly recommend go checking that episode out. Anywho's, let me catch up on some super chats because I'm trying to get better about that. I don't want people to think that I'm ignoring them. Let's go back. Hey, appreciate the membership. Magnus, Timothy, Ricardo, appreciate you guys. This actually came in before the stream started. Book recommendation, Cult of the Chosen Ones by Makia Freeman. It'll give you video ideas for 3,000 years is how I'm reading that. Very, very good, very well-sourced material. So I did look this book up. It is on my list, but my list of book recommendations, thanks to you good people, is like 80 books long. I will hopefully get to it eventually. I forget what am I listening to right now? Somebody was asking for a book recommendation earlier, and this book. I'm listening to the book The People of the Lie. Oh, you can't focus on it. The People of the Lie by M. Scott Peck, who is interesting because I think he's a medical doctor. He's a psychiatrist or a psychologist, but he's also like a Christian apologist kind of. And he's exploring the idea of evil and believes that evil should be scientifically studied. I'm only like a third of the way through the book, so I can't speak too much on it yet, but it's very, very good and very applicable to a lot of the stuff that we see in the world today. So I would say check it out. Thank you so much for the gifted memberships, Joe. Appreciate you. What else we got here? Thank you for the membership. In that Bible is the name of all Christian victims. You're talking about this one? Are we talking about like the martyrs? Okay, that's interesting. I've not gone through much of it yet, but that's good to know. Hey, love your content. You were the one who made me aware of the Israel situation. You're the first person I've become a member for. I'd like to support you any way I can. I hope your day is going well. Well, dude, or Kathy, I can't tell by your. I don't want I don't really care much about misgendering, but I try not to do it on purpose if I can help it, especially when people are donating to the channel. But I appreciate you very much. Honestly, just watching is enough support, or tell people about it. But also, yeah, thank you so much for the super. Various crazy people. I appreciate your content and being a voice for the people who cannot speak up for fear of being canceled into poverty. Question: how do we get lobbying out of the government? Burn it down. I want to have a conversation with Clint again. I have him. We've talked tentatively about doing another interview. This time, me interviewing him on my channel. And I want to ask him, because he talks a lot about advocating for reform within the government, and I'm fully in the camp of there's no reforming this government. There's no peaceful political solution to the problem of excising corruption out of this system. So I really want to ask him about that and be like, can you defend for me your position of participating in this political system any longer, or are we just shuffling chairs around on the deck of the Titanic? So that's where I come from. By the way, not advocating violence, obviously, YouTube, but you know, oh, I got that one. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Just like overwhelming evidence is okay. Yeah. So this was, this was another thing. So the premise of the debate was that the evidence that Tyler Robinson killed Charlie Kirk was overwhelming, according to Mr. Pickles. And then in the first 30 seconds of the debate, he says, oh, well, you know, when I said overwhelming, I just meant that it was convincing enough for me to believe it. That's not what overwhelming is, bud. That's not what that means. And then later on, he was directly asked by PBD. He was like, scale of 1 to 100, how certain are you that Tyler Robinson killed Charlie Kirk? And he was like, 75, 85%. My brother in Christ, if you have a 1 in 4 chance that this guy is not guilty, that is the definition of a reasonable doubt from a legal perspective. Like, that is, anyway, we're moving on. We're moving on beyond the debate. It took up way too much oxygen out of the room anyway. What did you think? Yeah. Oh, okay. So this person also wanted to know, what did you think of the first 10 minutes where he admitted, yeah, again, like, that's not what those words mean. Like, he knew he had screwed up. So within the first 30 seconds, when he was reading his 30-minute long prepared statement, he said, oh yeah, well, I meant it's convincing to me, and 75%. It's like, nah, dude, that's not. Anyway, thank you for this. I'm a guy. Okay, I appreciate it. Yeah, I can't really see your profile picture that clearly. You didn't have to pay. Thank you for everyone who pays me money to correct me when I make mistakes. You don't have to do that, but thank you so much. I appreciate it. And Rain, my dude. Oh, I forgot. I need to grab your clip. There's a clip. I'll do that in a little bit. Rain sent me a really funny clip of her unboxing the stickers that she won during the last live stream. So I will come back to that. There's not even a formal mechanism to ensure McConnell is alive. There's no reforming the system. We can rebuild it better. But yeah, yes, basically. And this is kind of the conversation that I want to have with Clint, is that it's like, well, I don't think that we can go back. Like, I think the Constitution was made in a different time where we didn't have things like flock cameras and massive centralized databases tracking your movement across the country. But there are clearly things that we need to carry forward into the future, like the sovereignty of the individual and Enlightenment principles and just basic human rights and things like that. But I do think that any conversation we have about voting anymore is just a waste of time. That's where I'm at. I can't imagine anyone legitimately arguing that voting is anything other than a waste of time anymore. I was joking because it's so thick. Oh, okay. Yeah. I gotcha. Okay. Once again, people paying me money when I make a mistake or misunderstand people. Anyway, all right. That's it. We're caught up on the super chats. Let's move on. So a big announcement for the channel. I have recently had a very excellent. Here, let me get that out of the way. Very excellent conversation with this gentleman right here, Mitch, of Interesting Books Reviewed. We somebody in the comments a long time ago, when I mentioned that I wanted to do a video on the Talmud, recommended that I reach out to this guy. That is I think the Babylonian Talmud that he's reading right there. Like, he actually has a physical copy of it. and like an English translated version of it, and he did a video on it. And he's actually recently received, I think, 1 community strike and 1 warning. So he's being targeted. His channel is being targeted, and I like playing with fire, so we're gonna do a collab and have a conversation about the Talmud. It was a great conversation. We're on a very similar trajectory. Apparently, he had already been watching my channel, which is a huge compliment. So I'm guessing that folks gave him a shout out. He's a really cool guy. I had a really great conversation with him, and we're going to do a collaboration. I'm going to interview him on Tuesday. So within the coming weeks, I'll have a video, maybe even a series of videos on the Talmud. He's up to 2 strikes as of last night. Yeah, I don't think that last night was a strike. I think that he just had a video pulled down. I'll have to clarify that with him. Anyway, but we're going to talk to him because I haven't had any strikes yet, much to everyone's surprise. So I'm going to help to platform him a little bit, give him some traffic. Go like him and check out his videos and stuff. He's a great dude, at least based on we had like an hour and a half long conversation. And based on that conversation, I think he's a pretty cool guy. Anyway, but yeah, guys, I'm really encouraged about the future of this channel. I'm really encouraged about the future generally. And I know that that's not something that you hear very often, but I've had a number of conversations this week and in the past month, in fact, where I think that people are waking up, and that's an overused term, but what I mean by that is like the number of people, including Mitch, including some other people that I've spoken to this week, where there's this feeling of being called and being pulled into quite literally a fight between good and evil. And I know that sounds hyperbolic, and you know what, if you want to think of it in supernatural terms or not, this is where we're at. We are quite literally in a fight between good and evil. And from what I can tell, the battle lines are pretty cleanly drawn between those who would do harm to or exploit or sodomize or bomb children, and those who would try to prevent those things from happening. And that's about what it comes down to, as far as I'm concerned. And I've never been more thrilled to pick a side and start fighting. And the number of people that I've spoken to in the last month who have come to the same conclusion and who have felt called and pulled into using their unique skill set, their unique gift to start fighting that fight and start calling out evil when they see it is absolutely tremendous to me. So I want to encourage you, if you've been feeling hopeless lately, if you've been feeling despair, if you've been feeling like these challenges are insurmountable, I don't think so. I think that what we're going through right now is what Adam Curry likes to refer to as the season of reveal. I think that all that's happening right now is that all the evil that was already in the world and has been around for thousands of years is just now being pulled out into the open. I think that I'm excited. We'll just leave it at that. Okay. And I do have good news for the channel. Well, let me put it this way. I've decided that I want to start, taking the channel more seriously, but there's one kind of big problem with that. And that is that I am a complete dingus. I have quite literally no idea what I'm doing. This up until now has been my entire strategy on YouTube. My entire strategy on YouTube has been talk shit about the Israeli government, be really vulgar while I do it. And that's it, right? So it's not exactly been sustainable. And I've gotten to where I am basically just by flailing my arms around and getting lucky, and I know that that's not maybe being completely fair to myself, but when it comes right down to it, like I've been failing forward. I've been learning as I go. Right. And I decided once I hit the 100K, it really changed my perspective, and it made me realize like, wow, I actually do kind of have something going here that might be sustainable. It might be able to grow. And if I'm going to take responsibility for that trust that has been placed in me by you, by the channel members, by the people that are watching my videos, then I should probably take this more seriously, and I should probably have some kind of a strategy in mind. And so I decided to reach out to a number of YouTube experts, and in particular channel strategists. And I sent this email out to, I think, about 10 different alleged YouTube strategy experts. And basically, the whole point of this was just to say, hey, by the way, this is my situation. However, I got to where I am by being extremely critical of the Israeli government and Zionism more generally. So if that's a non-starter for you, then, you know, no hard feelings. Just let me know now so that I can find somebody else to work with. The very first response that I got, like I think like an hour or two after I sent out this email or this message to everybody, I got this response, and I've left it anonymous because the person that sent it requested that I do so. But this was the response that they gave me. Thanks for reaching out. Congratulations on hitting 100K. Regarding your note on the focus of your channel, this scene from Superman should tell you my stance. Would you like to see the clip? Would you like to see the clip that he sent?
I know you won't kill me! You are too delicate and weak, like Superman!
I'm not like Superman.
So, so for those that aren't aware, that character was widely regarded as being a stand-in for Ben-Gurion when that movie was made. And so the response that I got from this guy was basically like, yeah, I'm on board. Suffice to say, the conversation we had was fantastic. Folks, I see the comments. I will get to Europe, I promise. All right, I'll pick up the pace a little bit. I just tried to get through the super chats from earlier. But the good news is I'm hiring. We'll just get through this. We'll breeze through this really quickly. I'm hiring. And in particular, I'm looking for somebody that is good at video packaging, so thumbnails, titles, and descriptions, and I'm looking for a short form clips editor. So especially somebody that's good at vertical video editing and formatting and things like that. And in particular, if you're good at both of these things, that would be amazing. So please send your portfolios to mrquigley33@gmail.com, and we'll go from there. But just so you guys are aware, it is important to me that the people that I bring into this project are doing it for the right reasons. They're on board for the mission that we are going for here, which is to oppose Zionism and to protect children. Okay. I don't talk about money too much on the channel, but, you know, I took a pretty massive cut in pay to start focusing on this channel full time, which has been absolutely worth it and was absolutely the right decision. And it's not like I expect the people that come in and start working on this project, I don't expect them to work for free, obviously, but I do want them to, I'm going to pay you adequately. I just want to make sure that your heart is in the right place and that you are on board with the mission and the vision. I'm not looking for people that are just coming in for, you know, for an easy buck. Okay. Anyway, please send your portfolios to mrquigley33@gmail.com. And we'll go from there. All right. Oh, one other thing, by the way, guys, this is not me. There's been a bunch of bots. If you see anyone asking for WhatsApp, that isn't me. That is not me. Okay. So anyway, let's get to it. Shit is going down in Europe, guys. Shit is going down. By the way, big shout out to my European audience. I don't really get a chance to talk to all of you that much, but big shout out to these good people. We've got the UK, we've got Germany, we've got Poland, we've got Italy, we got Spain, we got Norway, we got, who else we got here? Oh no. Well, that's probably not good. That's a lot of Mossad agents, guys. What do I have that many people going on there? Anyway, I was trying to find one image to kind of explain or summarize my understanding of what is going on in Europe right now, and I just happened to come across this image on X a few days ago, and it was this. Basically, my understanding of what's happening in Europe right now is some combination of people are upset about the fact that Israel is, committing genocide in Gaza, obviously, and instigating World War III with Iran. But also there's the issue of the fact that a lot of the regions that have been destabilized due to the last 50 years of the clean break policy being enforced and Middle Eastern and African countries being deliberately destabilized by the United States and by Israel. I think the only thing that would be different would be, we should say Israel and the U.S. right here over that fire, is the fact that a lot of these regions have displaced migrants that are now flooding into Europe, absolutely flooding in by the millions, right? And it's kind of a tough predicament, especially because in addition to all of those problems, you've got prominent European leaders who are basically just holding their hands up in the air and pretending like nothing bad is happening here. It's kind of a bad example. I think he was recently kicked out, but even still, he's not the only one. There's this really interesting dynamic that we see where, and we'll get into it a little bit later, but the people in Europe are really quite sick and tired of the migration issues and Israel in particular. But their representatives are basically just the polar opposite. It's very similar to what you see here in the U.S. and the sentiment towards Israel. So this got me thinking with the migration issues. By the way, this is a really interesting graphic. This was and I haven't verified this independently, but this is basically a graphic showing each one of those dots represents 100 people over time. So this is ranging back to around 2010. Millions and millions. $12.5 million people. That's a lot of people. So I think reasonably speaking, people are a little bit upset about it. And it got me thinking, because a lot of the people are upset because it's perceived that this is a deliberate effort. There's a deliberate attempt to destabilize Europe through the use of forced migration. And it got me thinking, are there any historical examples of a country using displaced non-combatant migrants as a weapon to destabilize another country through forced mass migration? And as it turns out, yes, there are. And in fact, this lady right here, speaking of the reading list and recommended reading, this lady right here, I believe she's a PhD, but that credential isn't listed on this book. Kelly M. Greenhill wrote this book, Weapons of Mass Migration. And apparently she has done a great deal of good work on this and given talks. If you're interested in the subject, I would recommend looking her up. But she describes this phenomena as coercive engineered migration or migration-based hybrid warfare, which is pretty devastating term. And she points to a few different examples of this throughout history. One that she points to would be in 1980, where the U.S. was basically invaded by, I think it was, what was it? I have the number here. 125,000 Cuban migrants during the Mariel boat lift crisis. This was deliberately weaponized by Fidel Castro. And in fact, he explicitly and specifically released prisoners to be sent over on these boats. Like he emptied his prisons and put people on boats and shipped them over to Florida as a way of punishing the U.S. for their foreign policy against Cuba. They did the same thing 14 years later in 1994 with the Balsero crisis. This one wasn't quite to the same scale, but it did include 35,000 Cubans that were deliberately shipped into the U.S. as punishment, again, in retaliation for U.S. foreign policy against Cuba. And interestingly enough, and we're going to get to the what is it called? The Ceuta crisis. I think that's how you pronounce it. I didn't realize that the same thing had happened 5 years ago. The same thing had happened where Morocco deliberately lowered their border security to allow tens of thousands of Moroccan migrants to cross into Spain, technically Spain. Not mainland Spain, but still. It's the same thing that happened just a few weeks ago. They did the same thing back in 2021. Anyway, this probably isn't news to a lot of my European watchers, but I didn't know that. As an American, the information that we get over here is such dog shit. So, by the way, as we're going along, if you are in Europe and I get any of this wrong or I mispronounce anything, please let me know. I'll try to catch your, it's fake, Mr. Hang on. Most of them were teenagers paid by the Moroccan government for propaganda. They went back, had no back. Yeah, we'll get into it later. But yeah, the overwhelming majority of them were deported. I think a few thousand of them remained. Like, I think there's still 10,000 people in Ceuta right now, including like 2,000 children who were unaccompanied because Spanish law prevents them from deporting unaccompanied children for obvious reasons. Like, that makes sense. But, that would be an example of the compassion of a more liberal Western country being taken advantage of because they know that you're not going to deport unaccompanied children. So they send unaccompanied children over. Anyway, it's a whole thing. But all of this leads to, so you've got issues with Israel, you've got issues with migration, you've got issues with a bunch of different stuff. All of this is kind of manifesting itself in anti-Israel sentiment in Europe, and these numbers are staggering, guys. This is a Pew poll that was taken, I think, just like a month or two ago. Look at these numbers. We've got, like, Hungary is kind of the outlier here, but even Hungary, which has the lowest rating on this chart, has a 54% disapproval rating towards Israel, ranging all the way up to 80% in Spain and Sweden. That is staggering. And these represent the people of these countries. So compare that to the majority of European MPs viewing Israel positively, calling for cooperation in spite of the Gazan genocide, in spite of this mass migration crisis. A strong majority, 70% of European MPs, perceive their country's relations with Israel as very good or rather good, according to a new survey by European leadership network Elnet. So at the same time that you have these numbers, where you have 75 to 80% disapproval of Israel among the people in Europe, you also have 70% approval rating among European leadership. So we're going to do a couple of deep dives on some of the bigger issues. We're going to talk about the Ceuta crisis. We're going to talk about the Days of Rage protests in Greece. We're going to talk about Dr. David Miller in the UK. But I wanted to just really quickly, let's just do a quick vibe check. Okay, let's just do a quick, just kind of a top level review of how people are feeling about Israel in Europe right now. Let's start with Greece. How are we feeling in Greece right now? These are, a little bit of context. These are Israeli, so Greece is a major tourist destination for Israeli cruise ships. And in recent months, there have been major protests and major disruptions of these Israeli cruise ships as they approach and enter Greece. And so what you see right here are Israeli citizens exiting the cruise ship, going on to the Greek mainland, and this is the reception that they are received with. I just want to point out, so first of all, somebody left a comment that's been happening for at least a year in Greece. This isn't a new thing. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that the thing that is new is that these interactions have gotten so bad that Israeli cruise ships have now stopped docking at the Greek ports. Isn't that relatively new? That was my understanding. We'll get to Greece in a little bit, but my understanding is that these interactions have gotten so bad and so violent and so confrontational that now the cruise ships are seeing it as a liability issue and they're no longer docking at the ports. Or am I misunderstanding that? Again, we in the US get really horrible information. So yeah, I'm curious if you wouldn't mind throwing me a follow-up comment here and letting me know whether or not that is true. That's my understanding, and I could absolutely be wrong about that. But look at this. Look at these people. Like, imagine going to visit another country and you're received with this level of hostility and your reaction is just defiance, just holding up a middle finger. Okay, thank you. I appreciate the follow-up. So I guess the thing that's wild to me is that I see the comments in here that this isn't new, that there's been this level. So there's been this level of violence, this level of like direct physical confrontation for a year. If that's the case, if I was Israeli, you couldn't pay me to leave that hell. Yeah, exactly. Like I guess for me, it's more like at what point does it become a liability issue for the tourist industry at that point? All right, let's move on. Let's talk about. So I was going to do a clip from Spain, but unfortunately the one that I have is of Isabel Peralta doing a Roman, and I don't think we're going to do that on the channel. Actually, you know, upon reflection, I think maybe like you guys have seen this clip. Suffice it to say, she pulls she does a Roman, she does an Elon Musk salute. Much to the revelry of the people there. So, but I think we're just not going to play that clip. But that's a vibe. That's a whole thing. What do we got in Austria? Let's see Austria. How's Austria doing?
Zionist, you are free Palestine. Why you kill people? Why you kill people? Why?
Why you kill people?
Why kill people? Why? No.
That's all they've got. 7th of October. 7th of October. That's it. That's all they've got.
The problem from the Israeli.
Hamas.
No.
Hamas.
Yeah.
7th October. Hamas.
Oh, it's normal. It's okay. Israeli. Go home. Go home to your nation. Israel is no country. Go home.
Israel is no country.
Go home. No. No.
The Germania, the Nazism, the Nazism.
The Nazis.
Israel,
The 6 million.
6 million.
Judim.
Yeah,
6 million.
Yeah.
No.
6 million.
He brings up 6 million and the guy just laughs in his face. Just laughs in his face. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Where is this? Where is that comment? Yeah. Debate tactics for basic bitches. Exactly. All right, that's Austria. Let's see. How are we doing in Ireland? How are we doing in Ireland? Let's see. That looks like a lot of fucking people, guys. That sure does look like a bunch of people. I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell with the camera angle, but sure does look. I got one more. I got a bonus clip from Ireland. This one made the rounds. By the way, before I play this clip, I'm just going to say, hi, YouTube. I do not advocate violence against anybody. But anyway, here we go.
I'm glad that Hitler didn't finish the job. Go on, say it again, Paddy. Say it again. Paddy the Irishman just told us he's sorry that Hitler didn't finish the job.
You're in Europe here.
That's okay.
You're in Europe here.
That's right.
Go on.
But go on, tell us again. You're sorry Hitler didn't finish the job. Please, tell us again. Tell us again, Paddy.
You get the fuck away with me before I put a fucking bullet in your head, okay?
I'm glad that Hitler didn't finish the job.
Peak fatigue is what that is. So this one made the rounds quite a bit. That expression right there. He, like, to be Fuken. Sorry, I'm trying to catch these comments as they come through. Guys, I don't know exactly why this man is angry. Okay, I don't know if this man is angry because of immigration, which he blames Israel for. I don't know if this man is angry because of Gaza. I don't know if this man is angry just because he's just anti-Semitic and just hates Jewish people on principle. It's hard to say. You know, we don't get a lot of context here. But that is hatred. That is pure, unadulterated hatred that he was barely holding back. Here, you see this? This is, I'm trying to be a good Christian. I'm trying to hold back a little bit. I'm trying. And then, nope. Nope. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. That's what that face is. That face is, it's not good, guys. I tell you what, it's not good vibes. Look, I'm not gonna say one way or another whether I feel like his anger is justified, but that is just pure hatred. Let's go on. Let's see. How's Denmark? How's Denmark doing right now? Okay, so a little bit of background. My understanding is that this was a Terma HQ. Terma HQ, I believe that they do Terma headquarters protest. So pro-Palestinian activists staged a direct action protest at the corporate headquarters of Terma in Denmark, smearing red paint on the building's facade and windows to symbolize blood and protest the defense manufacturer. Okay, so it's a defense manufacturer. They supply components for F-35 fighter jets used in Gaza. Over 140 people were detained during the demonstration for traffic and order violations. So that's the context.
Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Stop doing genocide!
Yeah, see, there you go.
Genocide! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Stop doing genocide! We are doing genocide! Free Palestine! Free Palestine!
I think it would have had a better effect if the paint didn't look like Pepto-Bismol, but that's just, at that point, that's just a marketing feedback is what I would call that. Hold on, wait a minute. I will break for this one. $100 with a thumbs up. Bro, that is extremely generous of you. Holy cow. Guys, I will come back and go through the rest of the supers here in a little bit, but I just noticed that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That is extremely generous of you. Man, I appreciate that. Very, very kind of you. All right, so that was Denmark. How about Albania? How are we doing in Albania? So, a little bit of context, because without context, that's just wild. So, this is my understanding. This is a politician. I don't have it in my notes here who the politician is, but this is a politician who participated in selling off of the public land in Albania to Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump for their resort. This is a part of the Flamingo Revolution. I think as of the day that this video was posted, this was day 54 into the revolution. They are still quite pissed off about all of this. Let's get another. That's a lot. That's like $150 worth of eggs, guys. That's going to be a nightmare to clean off. Yeah, Epstein Island. Yeah, there it is. That's all you need to know about it. And they're doing it out in public. Like the brazenness with which they're just like, yeah, we're going to have a billionaire resort where we diddle kids and we're just going to do it right out. And we're going to steal publicly owned land in order to do it. Yeah, it's a whole thing. I'm super excited for the next set. We're going to vibe check on Iceland recently. Iceland, Rabbi Shmuley recently had a series of interactions in Iceland that I feel like are worth. Now, my understanding is that this clip came first, and that the person that we see in the later clips was in this bar, and Shmuley confronted him outside of the bar after the fact. I'm not confident in that, but that's what I understand to be the context. So Shmuley, being Shmuley, decided to go out in public in Iceland and make himself a victim.
This man is assaulting me! This man is assaulting me! This man is assaulting me! Call the police! Please call the police on him! He assaulted me!
What I would like to point out are the overwhelming number of trans LGBTQ flags in the background. This is something I didn't see a lot of people commenting on. This is very clearly a very progressive bar. Guys, if there's anything that can heal the world, if there's anything that can bring all of us together as a people, right, left, everyone, it's going to be our mutual disdain for Rabbi Shmuley. This is the thing that will heal the world. I'm telling you. We just need to. And this is like part of the reason why I think that there is a deliberate campaign by Israel to get people to hate Israel and Jewish people and to promote anti-Semitism so that they can have an excuse to crack down on it later on, is because Rabbi Shmuley is still walking around. Like if you wanted to do PR for Israel, and like all that Mossad would have to do would be to take out Rabbi Shmuley, and Israeli favorability would go up by like 15%. That alone, that would take care of it. Maybe also Laura Loomer. But anyway, I'm not advocating for that. I'm just saying that would probably go a long way. Anyway, let's continue.
He must call the police, please. He attacked me 3 times. He attacked me 3 times. He attacked me 3 times.
He attacked me 3 times. I'm a victim of a totally unprovoked attack.
Please call the police. Fuck Israel! Fuck Israel! He assaulted me.
Quick shout out to this comment. Yeah, that's the context.
We're gonna call the police on everybody. Can you please get the mask out of my face? Nobody feels safe with this.
Just relax.
He cannot assault me as an American citizen.
Nobody can assault.
He assaulted me.
Nobody can assault.
He attacked me.
Nobody assaulted you.
You're not welcome. I'm not welcome where? Here. Here where? Do you own the bar? Relax. I can't believe this is.
Anyway, it's just more of that. It's like another 30 seconds of him kvetching. Yeah, he attacked me 6 million. The bar was promised 3,000. Oh, do I have a wait? Oh, Zionist here, you ussy. Ussy? Is that like an octopus pussy? Is that what you're trying to? Oh, this guy is like in here. Drop the call-in link, homo. Oh, we've got a Ziobot in the Jubot's tunnel. Yeah, that's okay. We got some salty bots in the chat. All right. Okay. So anyway, so that's the context. My understanding is that Shmuley went into this bar and made himself into a victim, and somebody said some shit, and he decided to start filming and doing PR for the Israeli government. And then outside of the bar, he confronted this guy. I don't have his name handy, but this Icelandic dude who then later on did an interview on Piers Morgan. So we're going to do that as well. But this was very interesting. I don't think this is the full 8 minutes.
So 1 second, hold
No,
on.
it's
You
not.
just made me hang up on my attorney. I told you it was on the phone. I told you I didn't want.
He called his attorney. Like, okay, guys, how many times have you been kicked out of a bar? Or had someone say something mean to you on the street and your first reaction is to call a lawyer? It's so exhausting. Anyway.
Want to interrupt, and you said you said to my Rashuli, you said that you're a big fan. You lied through your teeth, and then you said fuck Israel. Why would you do that? I'm an American. I'm a visitor here. Now you're pretending you don't speak English? Listen, this is going to go out to the whole world. I'm sorry. Just for you to tell me to fuck Israel? Do you hate Jews that much?
I'm sorry, my friend.
Do you hate Jews that much?
Welcome to Iceland, my friend.
And then?
I'm sorry.
I said, no, you misheard me. I said, welcome to Iceland. Which is very phonetically similar to fuck Israel. I can see why there was a mix-up.
My friend, I don't
Tell
know.
what happened.
You want me to tell the world? Fuck Israel. Fuck Israel.
Say it.
Fuck Israel.
No.
Okay, yeah, I will say, I wasn't going to say it, okay? But now that you've said it, I will say that is, guys, out of all the haircuts that I thought would make a comeback in the 2020s, I really didn't think the mullet would be it. I wish that we had gotten bell bottoms instead of the mullet. Like, of all the things that we could have had a of all the things that we could have brought back, the mullet, really? Anyway, moving on.
Yeah. Fuck Israel. Fuck Israel. Fuck the genocide going on. Fuck. I will.
Let him
History will not favor the genocide that you are behind. All right.
But you're a brave man who's prepared to say fuck Israel.
I know.
Okay. So
Yes.
So my name's Rabbi Shmuley.
I know who you are.
I know who you are.
And what's your name?
My name is Samuel.
Samuel what?
That doesn't matter. Man.
Oh, suddenly you're not. Suddenly you're a coward.
I'm not comfortable.
Why don't
with,
you
I'm
be?
not, no, I'm
why
not
don't you and your girlfriend be very brave and tell us what your names are?
And this is the part that, like, this is the part that really aggravates me, is that my understanding is that Samuel here said something that Shmuley took offense to, and he decides, like a brave man, you know, to chase down this woman who, as far as I'm aware, didn't say anything, and get in her face and intimidate her. Not that, okay, I won't say intimidate. I don't think Shmuley has ever intimidated anyone, let's say, over the age of 15 in his entire life. But he attempts to intimidate this poor woman who is very clearly not interested in being involved in the confrontation.
No. You and your girlfriend said that Israel should be fought. Now she's hiding her face. Be brave. Here's my face.
Yes,
I'm not afraid.
I'm telling you.
I
she
work
has
for
nothing
I'm
to do with it. Okay.
No.
Don't push
Walk
up
away
into
from
me.
me or I'll call the police on you.
Don't push
I'll
up
tell
into
the
me.
police what happened.
Don't push up into
I'll
me.
tell the police
Don't
what
push up
happened.
into me. I will say fuck Israel the whole day. This is my country. Welcome to my country. Ekki á áhugjörðni. Við löpum bara. Ekki á áhugjörð. Welcome to Iceland. What?
Welcome Palestine, but fuck the Jews.
Yeah. No, I never said that. I never said
This
that.
was a Jewish state.
Don't put words in my mouth.
I'm an American citizen,
No,
so
no,
what? I'm not welcome here? You speak for every Icelander?
I'm a Palestinian agitator.
That is you're a Palestinian agitator?
No, I'm saying I've dual citizen to Palestine. No, I'm fucking with you, man. No.
You see Jews in the street and you get to say fuck Israel to any Jew you see because that's the way it is for Jews today, right?
No, that's a false
This whole
equivalence.
thing, this whole thing has nothing to do with
That's a
Palestine.
false dude. This guy is such a legend. Yes, exactly. Well, you know, they get their funding from the same source, so it makes sense that they would have similar debate training.
This doesn't work.
That's why 1,000 years. And American citizens protected Iceland during the war from being occupied by Hitler. And this is the thanks that American citizens get.
Oh my God! Okay, I'll admit I didn't watch this clip all the way to the very end, but to jump to, I'm an American citizen. You just said okay, it's fine. The gymnastics required. I'm an American citizen, and we protected you from the Nazis. Okay, yeah. You didn't protect shit from fuck, my dude. Anyway, so the follow-up to this was that Piers Morgan somehow managed to get both of these guys on camera, which was also quite amazing.
And saying F Israel to your face,
Fine,
that
fine.
is anti-Semitism,
already-
pure and simple.
No, it's
and
not.
if you're a British man,
No,
and if
it's
they
not.
walk over and say,
No,
if they
it
say
is-
to you,
no.
Pierce,
Rabbi
Churchill killed
Shmuley,
1 million
Rabbi
German
Shmuley,
children. F
Let me
Britain.
stop you there.
It was
Let
harassing.
me stop you there.
It was.
I'm
Yeah, I again, I'm not okay. If I'm going to criticize Homeboy for his mullet, I think it's only fair for me to criticize Shmuley for having 8 pounds of pubic hair glued to his face. Okay, I'm not big on. In fact, let me get my screen out of the way so we can fully appreciate. Let me zoom in here if I can make it a little bit bigger. There we go. This is just pubic hair. This is the worst. This is cancer to the eyes, is what this is. Anyway, we will proceed.
I'm disappointed in you. I really am.
Wait a minute. Can you? Okay,
F
you know
Israel
what? I
is
don't
not
care.
a criticism.
I'm going to.
F Israel is not a criticism.
F Israel
is an attack on Jews. Saying I'm a dual
Let me
citizen
talk,
is a lie.
please.
I'm
No,
an
it's not an
American.
attack
I'm an
on
He's digging his
American.
own grave. I don't even.
No,
have
it's
to say
not
anything.
an attack on Jews. No, you accused him of being a Jew hater and of being anti-Semitic. Nothing I've seen
Correct.
in these videos
Because he came
proves that
over
he
and lied and
either
said
hates
I'm a
Jews
fan and
or was
F Israel.
anti-Semitic.
And it happened
No.
40 times while we're here. And the
And
reason
40 times. It happened 40. It's happened 3,000 times.
He doesn't
I'm
like
here is
you.
because I love
He
this
doesn't.
country, okay?
Fine.
Then let him walk
Fine.
over and say, can
All
I
right,
say
stop
respectfully
talking
say
for a
I don't
moment.
like you?
He can't.
Yeah,
Yeah, just to be clear,
explains
it's
the
fine.
nature-
You can. All right, I'll let Samuel respond. Samuel respond.
I'm sorry. Yeah, it shows the nature of your thinking and of also in the grander scheme of the nature of your warfare. For a man to approach you and your son, 2 men, one of them an IDF soldier, chasing down my girlfriend and largely ignoring me, pushing into me to get to her with the camera. You lie.
That is a lie. You are.
So anyway, not to give Shmuley any more screen time than is absolutely necessary, but I guess the point that I'm trying to get to with showing all of these clips, you know, people have been saying in the chat, well, this isn't new. People have been overtly criticizing Israel in the streets in Greece and elsewhere. But I guess the point that I'm making is that now you've got people that are comfortable enough to go on camera, on live television. This is just a regular guy. This is just a guy. This is just a random dude in Iceland. I don't know what he does for work. My understanding is that he's just an average Icelandic dude. And he's perfectly comfortable going on Piers Morgan in front of, I don't know what Piers's viewership is, probably millions of people over time, and saying like, yeah, fuck Israel. That's where we're at. This is the point of the vibe check, is that it isn't even about, are you still in the chat, dude? This troll is, who am I simping for? I hate to feed the trolls, but like he's in here yelling and whining. He's pulling a schmooly. Why are you crying so much, little guy? Anyway, the point I'm trying to get to is you now have people like regular, everyday, average people in Europe and in America who are perfectly comfortable going on camera and saying like, yeah, I'm not an anti-Semite, but fuck Israel. Which is good. You have to normalize something like this in order for collective action to be possible. In order for everyday average people, you need 3.5% of the population. Remember, we talked about this. 3.5% of the population to get behind a nonviolent movement in order to exact social change, in order to shut down a system and bring about actual change. You have to disrupt the economy, and in order to do that, you need mass adoption. And that is what we are seeing right now. This is a good thing. So to all the doomers in the chat that are saying, "Ugh, this doesn't mean anything." Yes, it really does. Normalizing this kind of sentiment is exactly what we need. Anti-Pewbite. Critical tipping point. Yes, exactly. One more bonus vibe check. Okay, this is not Europe, technically speaking, but I found it as I was looking around, and I thought that it was worth including. This is Thailand, and apparently the context provided here is an Israeli family were denied entry to an exotic park in Thailand. I don't have any more context other than that, but here we go.
Move off my place. Okay, bye-bye. Move off my place. Hey. Okay.
So this is the owner. My understanding is that this is the owner of the property, and he walks up and headbutts one of the Israeli tourists and says, get out.
Move off my place. Okay, bye-bye. Move off my place. Hey.
Okay. We're leaving because we're from Israel. What have we done to you? We haven't done anything to you.
Okay, bye. Bye-bye.
What's your name, please, sir?
Fuck you,
Seriously, what's your name?
That's my name too. What a coincidence. We must be related. That was beautiful. Hang on.
Bye-bye.
What's your name, please, sir?
Fuck you,
Seriously, what's your name?
Move off my place. Okay, bye-bye. Move off my place.
Hey. Okay. We're leaving.
Bye. Move off my place. Okay, bye-bye.
So the sentiment extends beyond Europe, I guess is what I'm saying here. Yeah, it is a great answer. I agree. Fuck you, The sentiment extends beyond Europe. The sentiment is being felt globally now. We are reaching a critical turning point where the one thing that everyone can agree on is not Israel. Like, and for whatever reason you by whatever path you arrive there, that's where we are right now. And it's a beautiful thing to see. And why is that again? And I do want to do kind of more of a deep dive on Greece and the UK and Spain in particular. But before we get into that, I think that it's important that we start with a new segment that I'd like to introduce to the show, which is You Don't Hate Israel Enough. This is the new segment for the show, and I need. By the way, if there are any musicians out there, I really need an intro song, an intro video for my live streams, and I could also really do with some jingles. And if you'd like to start with "You Don't Hate Israel Enough" as a jingle, that would be tremendous. I would really appreciate that. Anyway, so this stuff is going to be a little bit dark, but I think that it's important that we periodically remind ourselves of the reasons why folks are so angry at Israel these days. So this one I have labeled as just genocidal rhetoric. Let's see what that one's all about.
Israeli society has gone full fucking fascist. They're not indoctrinated in the sense of, let's say, North Korea. They know exactly what's going on. They have more honest media than the US. They see exactly what they're doing. They see the footage. They know the kids are starving. They agree with it. And this is overwhelmingly displayed. This is not just anecdotal through my man on the street interviews when I was in Israel, which I was floored by in a period of relative calm. I mean, it's never relative calm for Palestinians, obviously.
There's only one way, I would carpet bomb them.
There's a interesting kind of contradiction of this indoctrination in Israeli society. On one hand, it's cradle to grave. You are separate from your Palestinian brothers and sisters. They are the working class that serve you if you do interact with them. And you are taught to be terrified of them. You don't step foot into the West Bank. They put up signs themselves projecting the terror that they feel that they've taught themselves. Right. And that's the whole rationalization of the violence and brutality, is that they will do it to us, so we must do it to them first. It's a really perverse ideology.
Israelis have to take over, and they have to kick them away. I think we have the right to hate them. I don't see a reason why not.
This was in Jerusalem, in a place called Tolerance Square, right in front of Zara, you know. And I'm talking to people from all walks of life. Every single person espoused genocidal rhetoric. Kill them all, bomb them all, drop a big nuke, expel them. Until then, I'd been kind of placated by politicians and media that the two-state solution was possible, right? I didn't really realize the impossibility of that until I was there and saw there is no more West Bank.
It can't happen. This is the problem that I have, is that you've gone so far now that you can never have a two-state solution. You just can't. Not only because they've, murdered tens and hundreds of thousands of people there, but they know full and well, if they actually gave these people equal rights, if they actually respected their human rights and gave them a right to representation, it would completely upend everything that Zionist society is, everything that Israeli society is. It'll never work. I think that's why now you see the two-state solution. You see a lot of, I don't have the chart with me, but you see two-state solution being pushed now in a lot of Zionist American communities, at least according to Pew polling data, because they recognize it, like, oh, damn, like we have gone way too far now, and we need to maybe start backpedaling a little bit. There's just no way.
And Israeli society has gone full fucking fascist.
יש לך משהו להגיד, הוא אומר שגם ככה ערבים, מקסימום.
אוקיי, בסדר בעברית. פשוט מאוד, צריך להיכנס לשטחים.
When you let a state have impunity, and when they're that full of hatred, the limitations are endless. And as we've seen, they will not stop. They will not stop. The levels continue to stoop lower and lower of what they're getting away with and what they're capable of doing. And the U.S. will back them every step of the way. But every single poll since this started has shown overwhelming support by Israeli Jews for the genocide, for the starvation campaign, caging millions of people, depriving them of basic human rights, electricity. I mean, the anti-Muslim bigotry that makes this rational and justified in the eyes of the Western world is really, really horrific and despicable.
I've said it before and I'll say it again. It's like, imagine the worst version of Nazi Germany that you ever read about in a Maxwell textbook. Imagine you had that, and then you allowed that society to exist with complete immunity or impunity for 4 or 5 generations and indoctrinate their children according to racist genocidal ideology. And that is what you would get with Israel. It is a sociopathic society bred by sociopaths, indoctrinated by sociopaths from cradle to grave. Every single person that is born in Israel is born into this mindset. And these interactions that they have when they step outside of Israel, when they go to Greece and they see these other people that hate them, it just reinforces that identity. It reinforces that idea that, oh, well, the whole world is against us, so we have to have Israel. And it's getting worse too, because, this is something that, although I do agree with that comment, I'm going to hide it real quick. This is something that, and maybe I'll play a clip from that later, but there was a Tucker Carlson, Daryl Cooper interview where they were talking about this, and basically the idea is that as Israeli society gets worse and worse and worse, people are starting to leave. Like the people, I wouldn't even say the people that are more liberal minded. I think the people in Israel who have even a semblance of a survival instinct are now recognizing how untenable Israel is long term and are starting to leave, which means that the only people that are left and the only people that are actively moving to Israel are people who are, it's the worst of the worst. It's a self-selecting process by which people that are perfectly okay committing genocide and being victims or perceiving themselves as victims and being hated by the rest of the planet are going there. So it's a self-selecting sociopath engine that is just perpetuating itself now. It's a sociopathic self-licking ice cream cone. Yeah, no doubt that's the plan. Yeah. Yep. So, you know, it's rough. It's really rough. I do have a couple of more clips that I want to play here, but I want to catch up on supers real quick. Let me do that. Got a bunch in here. When Andrew said beyond reasonable doubt and 75 to 85%, that is reasonable doubt. It reminded me of Ron Burgundy. 60% of the time it works every time. Yeah, exactly. That is the textbook definition of, well, I don't know that, is there a specific percentage assigned to reasonable doubt? I know that in, there's like at least as likely as not as a term. I don't actually know if that is if that's a term that is, or if there's a percentage assigned to reasonable doubt. But I would say if you're slightly better than rock, paper, scissors odds, that's probably reasonable doubt. That's, you know, if you've got slightly better than a 1 in 3 chance of being innocent, that's probably reasonable doubt. I'm not an expert, but you know, that seems right to me. Also starting OCIA in September. Thank you for all you do. Consider going to Fulton Sheen Beautification. Fulton Sheen I don't know what that is. I will write that down and check it out later. I will check it out. I wore my favorite maroon t-shirt to watch. Thank you for the $2. To see Mossad's 9/11 numbers channel, Google 2 planes or 1 and 2 planes or 1. See, this is the number of video ideas that I'm getting from folks that send in supers like this is okay. I will check that out. I appreciate it. After I posted a video critical of extremists praying on the Temple Mount, I finally started showing up in Google Trends. I'm part of the club now. Yeah, that's you know, hey, guess the good news is that when they're building that database, there are fewer people supporting Israel than are critical of Israel at this point. So it's all good. Hey, I already said thank you, but thanks again for the $100 sub. That's or the $100 super. That's amazing. Appreciate it. Canada stands with you in your mission. Godspeed and good luck. Well, it's nice. It's nice to know. I'm a big fan of my Canadian brothers and sisters up there. Thank you so much. Thank you for the gifted membership. Appreciate you, brother. Quigs, please interview Elizabeth Lane regarding the Rothschild. Oh, okay, good. Yes, I really want to do more. Okay, I'm vaguely familiar with the Rothschild family. That is a rabbi hole that I have not done a deep dive into yet. So what is this? Elizabeth Lane, Rothschild bank system interview. Okay, I will look into that. Thank you. It's happening in an Asian country. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, Asia. Okay, Asia, relatively speaking, has absolutely no problem with being called racist, which is, you know, take it or leave it, pros and cons. Like they do not give a shit like we do in the West. They just do not care. They are perfectly comfortable. Yeah, I'm an anti-Semite. Yeah, I hate black people. Like they just do not care. It is pretty rowdy over there. Free Palestine, free the planet. God, oh, thank you. Thank you so much. That's very kind of you. And yes, free Palestine from the river to the sea. By the way, friendly reminder, that right there, Let me point to it. That is Palestine, not Israel. I saw some comments earlier saying, like, why do you have a thing of Israel back there? It is very clearly Palestine. I don't know what you're talking about. That is a Palestinian, a candle in the shape of Palestine. So thank you very much. Nazi propaganda posters weren't half as anti-Semitic as Rabbi Shmuly's face. I'm telling you, man, he's controlled opposition. He is deliberately, his entire job is to net increase anti-Semitism. That is the whole point of his existence. How does the hat works? Is it higher rank the smaller it is, or is it opposite like prestige ranking system? Well, no, because Ben Shapiro, I think, is like the king Jewish person here in the States, and his hat is getting bigger. He's got like a sombrero sized hat. So no, I think it might actually be the opposite, bud. After 10/7, I spent hundreds of hours learning real history that they never taught in school. The satanic evil we see in Israel is not new. Correct. Guys, this is important, okay? None of this is new. I know that I'm sometimes a little incredulous about it. I'm a little taken back by it, but none of this is new. They just continue to erase history through positions of power. It's too late for the U.S. Yeah, this is kind of why I want to do a video on this book in particular, because that guy came to similar conclusions, and I'm kind of interested in looking more into that. Thank you for I don't know what currency that is, but thank you for that. If you're looking for tracks, you might hire Crack Amigo. He recently announced he's ready to do custom tracks. You should check out his. Okay, if he did a song about Dave Portnoy, then I'm into it. Okay, Crack Amigo musician Dave Portnoy. Go check that out, guys. I don't know who this person is, but go check them out. Thank you for the $10. Appreciate you. The Unholy Cost stories is just confessions by Tiny Hats of what they did in the Red Terror. Same now when they. So I really want to look more into the Bolsheviks. I really, Daryl Cooper keeps making reference to it. Did Daryl Cooper ever do like a series on the Bolshevik Revolution, or is that something he's talking about doing? Because I really want to know more about the Bolsheviks. I disagree that everyone in Israel has this mentality from cradle to grave. Look at the young people, mostly Israelis, at the festival on October 7th. They were mostly... Okay, there's a lot of anti-Bibi sentiment. I'll agree. What I'm talking about is the trends over time. Like there are Orthodox Jews, like ultra-Orthodox Jews in Israel who are explicitly anti-Bibi, relatively pro-Palestinian, even though I think that if you are living in Israel and actively engaging in that economy, then you are kind of technically Zionist by default. Like if you're living there and paying taxes and perpetuating in the economy, you are actively participating in the Zionist project just by being physically present there. I don't see how you can be truly anti-Zionist and live there if you have an alternative. Maybe some of them don't. Anyway, I don't know. Anyway. Fair point. I'm not saying everyone in Israel, it's not a complete monolith, but anyway. All right. We are catching up on these. Keep up the good work. Oh, all right. Yeah, guys, I will happily, if you guys want to give me supers for me to pet Mamba, I will do that. Hang on. Baby. I will happily pet my cat. I will do it for free, but I will absolutely do it if you pay me money. Hi, Mr. Q in chat. Let's not forget what Israel is doing to South Lebanon. Obviously, they were promised that land as well. These people are colonizing the world. A state of Israel is no longer. Yes. We're going to actually, I couldn't have asked for a better segue, because the next clip that I have is actually of what's happening in Lebanon right now. So thank you for the tip, and thank you for that excellent transition into my next clip. Here we go. Just because the text is a little small, I'll read it out. They did not abandon the bombing. Last night they carried out 3 bombings in a region whose name I'm not going to pronounce because I'm just not, and destroyed more than one neighborhood. So the Israelis are adopting a method a method of torturing people by acting like this. But we tell them that whatever you do, you will not bend our resolve and we will not surrender. And even if you destroy our homes and tear down our properties, we will stay on this land. And we will return and they will depart. So, guys, we got to... They're bringing in bulldozers and construction equipment, not military equipment. They're bringing in front-end loaders and bulldozers into southern Lebanon in order to level civilian infrastructure and residential infrastructure. That's what's happening in southern Lebanon right now. Okay? And I appreciate the comment that was left. I think that the reason that people stop talking about this is just because after it continues to happen long enough, like it inspires a feeling of despair. Those are American bulldozer? Yeah, I believe it. I fully believe it. Just I agree with this sentiment. I really do. And I want to do a video on why, I've already talked about it a bit, but why it is that there's such a lack of action here in the US. It's extremely frustrating. Yeah, don't get it twisted. I'm not excusing Americans or the American government for any of this. Anyway, third clip, final part of this You Don't Hate Israel Enough segment that has gone on for like a half hour. This is a U.S. doctor who went to Gaza, and he's describing what he has seen there.
You've seen, how does Gaza compare?
All of the disasters I've seen combined, 40 mission trips, 30 years, ground zero, earthquakes, all of that combined doesn't equal the level of carnage that I saw against civilians in just my first week in Gaza.
And when you say civilians, is it mostly children?
Almost exclusively children.
So this is a trauma doctor who has done emergency work in apparently many other regions around the world. And what he's saying is that what he sees in Gaza is worse than every other place he's ever been put together, and that it is overwhelmingly, almost exclusively children who are being victimized.
I've never seen that before. Never seen that. I've seen more incinerated children than I've ever seen in my entire life combined. I've seen more shredded children in just the first week.
Shredded?
Shredded.
What do you mean?
Missing body parts, being crushed by buildings, the greatest majority, or bomb explosions, the next greatest majority. We've taken shrapnel as big as my thumb out of 8-year-olds, and then there's sniper bullets. I have children that were shot twice.
Wait, you're saying that children in Gaza are being shot by snipers?
Definitively. I have 2 children that I have photographs of that were shot so perfectly in the chest I couldn't put my stethoscope over their heart more accurately, and directly on the side of the head in the same child. No toddler gets shot twice by mistake by the world's best sniper, and they're dead center shots.
So this reminds me of the Great March of Return shootings Do we remember that from the Israeli war crimes video that I did? Where I think it was over 1,500 children that needed amputations or prosthetics because they had been shot in the kneecap. And in many cases, there were people that had been shot in both kneecaps. So you shoot someone in the kneecap, they immediately fall over, and then a few seconds later, you shoot them in the other kneecap. This happened, I don't remember the exact number, but it was like hundreds to, I think it was over 1,500 distinct amputations that had to happen for this exact reason. Yeah, exactly. This isn't the first time the targeting. Yeah. And the examples, because there was a UN investigation. I mean, there was a UN investigation where they looked into these claims of amputations, and yeah, the examples that they gave were examples where these were predominantly children who were not near the front line, who were not near the border, who were like 500, 600, 800 meters away, that were just standing around or like wearing a press vest or handing out sandwiches. That one kid that was shot in the head and survived but lost his sense of smell and taste, he was handing out sandwiches. It's like a 14-year-old kid. And they're like, oh, well, it was an accident. You're using live ammunition on an unarmed civilian population and shooting children. Anyway, if you haven't already seen the war crimes video, you should go check it out. It was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do in my life, but it was still absolutely worth doing and absolutely worth watching at least once. For the members, that would count as a one-shot video because you only need to see it once. But I will forever have that in my head. So, anywho's. Moving on. We have, sorry, I need to shake that off a little bit. All that to summarize, you don't hate Israel enough, no matter how much you think you do, no matter how much you think you're up to date and informed on Israel and how much you hate it, you don't hate it enough. I can basically guarantee that, because every time I think that I have seen enough or understand enough of how despicable Israel is, it turns out I was wrong. Let's get back to Europe. Let's take it down a notch, just a smidge. So there's a few major incidents in Europe that I wanted to talk about, and I wanted to start with Greece. And I've seen in the comments that protests in Greece are not new. So we'll take all of this with a grain of salt. Apparently, Greece has been based for a minute now. But I did think that it was important to point out the main reason that I'm focusing on Europe right now. I guess I should have led into the video with this. The main reason I want to focus on Europe right now is that I see a lot more political activism in Europe right now than I do in the United States. And I have a few different ideas of why that might be. I think that one of the big reasons why we don't see nearly as much political activism in the US is because of how spread out we are and how centralized power is here in the US. So what can I do? I live in Texas, okay? What can I do in, I saw a comment asking if that image was a t-shirt yet. It isn't yet, but I will make it into a t-shirt. I whipped this up this morning, so I will make this into a t-shirt and I will post it on the channel when I do. But part of the reason why I think that there's not more protests in the United States and not more political action in the United States is I live in Texas, right? What exactly can I do here in Texas that would have a meaningful disruptive effect on people living in Washington, D.C.? Short of me, packing up and going out to D.C. and like living there for a few months and hoping that a bunch of other people also do the same thing such that we can do, pull like a trucker convoy protest and disrupt DC. Like, the problem is that we are so centralized and so spread out in this country that it's really hard to pull on the mechanisms that would bring about the kind of change that we need. I think that the best that we could possibly do would be to have a series of coordinated protests that were localized. So if we could get like a BDS protest movement that was happening here in Texas and in Tennessee and California and just like all at the same time, one massive economic shutdown. The problem is that that is going to render a lot of people poor, a lot of people homeless. And I'm not saying that that's not that you can't justify that, because there are people quite literally being butchered in Gaza and Lebanon. But as far as, you know, if I'm a parent, I'm not a parent, but if I were a parent and I had kids and I knew that the only thing that was preventing my kids from being in poverty and going hungry was me continuing to go to my shit job and earn money so that I can stay on top of my 25% credit card interest debt, it's hard to break through that. It's hard for me to, or for a person in that situation to prioritize the children in Gaza over the children, my children that I have right in front of me. I think it's a consequence of debt being weaponized in this country. And I think that I don't know is the answer. But my attempt to help out is to draw attention to the protests that are happening in Europe in the hopes that it will motivate people here into doing similar things and to being disruptive here in the same way that we see people being disruptive there. That's my answer to the problem. This is my part of participating and trying to add to the conversation and motivate people. I want to give people confidence that speaking out against Israel is the right thing to do, and it is appropriate to do it now. So that's kind of why I'm focusing on this. So let's talk about Greece. Greece has had a series of, and apparently for the past year, massive protests. The notes that I have here say that recent protests in July and early August were had by large coordinated pro-Palestinian organizations like BDS Greece and March to Gaza in over 106 locations in Greece simultaneously. To the point where the Israeli Foreign Ministry warned Israelis in Greece to hide their Israeli identity and their I guess their Jewish identity more broadly. Which is pretty astounding. I have an explainer video that I marked as being kind of noteworthy. Play it here. We're not going to watch the whole thing, but the notes that I have here say that the first 3 minutes or so are a pretty good explainer.
Athens erupted into a tense scene on Sunday as hundreds of pro-Palestinian demonstrators confronted Israeli citizens, waving Palestinian flags and chanting for freedom for Palestine.
In fact, guys, I got to run to the bathroom. I'm going to let this play for like a minute. I'm going to take the fastest bathroom break that has ever been. I'll be right back.
During a nationwide day of protests over the Gaza war. The march saw the heated confrontation between demonstrators and Israeli tourists, with the two groups exchanging angry gestures before protesters pushed the Israeli tourists away, according to footage from the scene. The march moved through central Athens and past the Greek parliament, with police escorting the march, controlling crowds and closing sections of roads to traffic. Protesters carried banners and a large Palestinian flag while chanting freedom to Palestine. The action was part of a broader campaign organized by March to Gaza Greece, BDS Greece, the Palestinian Community of Greece, and other groups, with rallies planned in cities, islands, and villages across the country. Protester Despina Lada said the demonstrators were supporting Palestinians, whom she described as having resisted for decades. Another protester, Maria Anastasiou, said the Palestinian struggle gave participants courage and called for continued support for the Palestinian people.
It is deeply moving, and in any case, it gives us the courage to continue this long struggle, to stand firmly by the side of the people of Palestine. May there be freedom for all of Palestine.
Other demonstrators sharply criticized Israel's military campaign. Protester Giorgos Stavropoulos accused Israel of pursuing what he called a massive, monstrous plan to expand across the Middle East, while arguing that people in Lebanon and Palestine were being killed without sufficient international response. The protests prompted Israel's foreign ministry to issue a special security warning to Israelis visiting Greece. The ministry urged Israelis to avoid demonstrations and large gatherings, stay away from confrontations, and exercise heightened vigilance. It also advised travelers to keep Israeli and Jewish identifying symbols discreet and avoid sharing their real-time locations on social media. The warning came during Greece's peak tourism season, when large numbers of Israelis were visiting the country. According to Israel Airports Authority data, nearly 50 flights were scheduled to depart Ben Gurion Airport for Greece on Sunday. BDS Greece called for nationwide participation, urging supporters to display Palestinian flags and keffiyehs. The group demanded that Greece impose sanctions and an arms embargo on Israel and end military cooperation with the country. Israel rejects accusations that it is committing genocide, saying its military campaign targets Hamas and allied groups.
Anyway, yeah. So I think the rest of the video is literally them just explaining the Gaza and Lebanon genocides. Sorry, I actually don't think that what's happening in Lebanon is technically a genocide. I shouldn't have said that. Maybe it is. I'm actually not sure, but I don't think that it's quite the same. Anyway, yeah. So Greece is getting pretty rowdy. And again, we played one of these clips earlier, but we also have we've got protests. And again, apparently, like this one doesn't look like that many people, but again, you got to consider 106 different locations in Greece. Look at the size of that flag, dude. We need stuff like this in the U.S. We really do.
Σκοπός της σημερινής συγκέντρωσης είναι να εκφράσουμε για άλλη μια φορά δυνατά.
Why are there not subtitles? I want to know what this guy's saying. What are you saying, bud? English. English, motherfucker. Do you speak it? There we go. Hopefully it's a decent translation. I don't know. I don't speak Greek. I don't speak greasy, boy. The purpose of today's gathering is to once again express solidarity with the people of Palestine.
Που επιχειρεί το Ισραήλ εδώ και 2 και πλέον χρόνια τόσο στη Γάζα όσο και στη Δυτική Όχθη.
Good comment. Yeah, so this is, again, like, I keep coming back to this. Yeah, I think that they want, like, okay, again, from a Christian Zionist perspective, like, you got to understand, this is how I was raised. There, according to Revelation, according to end times prophecy in the Bible, at the end of days, everyone will turn against Israel. Everyone will hate Israel. Now, again, two different ways to interpret that. Number one, either end time prophecy is coming true, or the Israelis are aware of what Christians believe and are playing into it on purpose and are doing things that are similar to the prophecies in the Bible on purpose in order to get Christian Zionists to go along with them. And I think that this is why Christ said that, yeah, they're trying to force it. I think this is why Christ said, none will know the day or the hour, that he will return like a thief in the night. It was an admonishment. It was a way of discouraging people. Because I've got, sorry, this is a little tangent here. My members of my family, my father in particular, had been predicting the Antichrist and the end times literally for my entire life, for over 30 years at this point, right? My dad was convinced that Obama was the Antichrist. And he pointed to the fact that he's a Muslim and that he's an eloquent speaker and all of this. Like, oh, he's the Antichrist. That's it. End of the world any day now. And like, how long ago was that? Like, this is the problem. People have been saying it's the end of the world for quite literally since the day of Christ. Like, Christ said that the people standing in front of him would not be dead before his return. So, anyway, they want people to hate them for whatever reason. I don't know. Yeah, Obama's still here. Could still happen. He could still be the Antichrist, guys. Who knows? I have one more clip from Greece. Oh yeah, this is so okay. People from Greece, correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that this is unique. Like, this is relatively new, that it was bad enough that the Israeli cruise ships could not even land. They couldn't even dock. Like, they decided it was a liability issue. Somebody tell me if you're in Greece or is this new or not? I agree. Right, and this is so again, like, this is the response, is that the Israelis on the ship are celebrating and waving their flag, and it's just self-reinforcement. It's just reinforcing this idea that everyone hates you, and rather than reflecting, rather than doing what a normal human being might do, and saying, I think there was a comment earlier, maybe it was even a super. Let me go back to that real quick, because I think somebody asked. I'm an American whose tax dollars are being used for this death and destruction, and I'm not okay with it. But if you travel outside the U.S., do others lump you in with all? Guess what? As an American, let me just address this really quickly. As an American, if I travel outside of the U.S. and I deal with persecution because I'm from the U.S., I accept that as a consequence. Like, I get it. It makes sense. I'm not saying that I subscribe to the idea of collective punishment. I'm not saying that I hold myself uniquely, solely responsible for American war crimes. And in fact, a large part of what I'm doing on this channel is trying to compensate for the fact that my tax dollars are involuntarily being used to harm children. Like, I'm trying to compensate for that in my own small way by talking about it and drawing attention to the issues. But if I were to travel to another country and people found out that I was American, and they decided to hate me for it, I would understand that reaction. You know what I wouldn't do is I wouldn't stand there and flip them off and say, yeah, America, number one, everything that we do is completely justified. That isn't what I would do. If anything, I would say to them, like, hey, yes, I agree. The American government is horrific. I don't agree with anything that they're doing. I think that the last 50 years of American foreign policy has been a nightmare. I wish that there were more that I could personally do to stop it. I apologize to you on behalf of my country and for any harm that has come to you or anyone that you know. That's what I would do in that situation. That's how I would respond to it. And again, there's a difference between like fault and responsibility. It isn't my fault, but I'm still willing to take responsibility for it and recognize that I, as an American taxpayer have some amount of guilt by association, and I would respond with humility. I would respond with fucking humility to anyone who was harmed by what my government has done. And also, just to quickly tag on to that, I've had this exact conversation with the Palestinians that I know personally, and not a one of them hates me because I'm American. They understand the difference. I bet you that would change if I had the same kind of belligerent asshole attitude as these Israeli tourists do that we see in these videos. That again, like let's go back. Let's check the clip again. This is what we're talking about here. We've not done anything wrong. That's what's happening, is that these people in the ship are saying we've not done anything wrong. Our government has not done anything wrong. We feel absolutely no guilt or shame at all. It's completely justified. We're just going to go home and continue doing it. Fuck you. That's the difference. All right? That's the difference. So that's Greece. Greece is based. Good job, Greece. Proud of you. Keep up the good work. Now let's talk about the UK real quick. I do want to talk about the UK and David Miller. Let me really quickly catch up on supers again. Again, folks, I apologize for everyone's patience. I'm trying to get better about this. Keep up the good work. Say hello to Mamba. I think I already read this one, but I will take the opportunity. Hey, baby. I will take the opportunity. Absolutely. Jen Common, if they are born in Israel, how are they supposed... Okay, so this was the comment that preceded the one that I just read. Okay, just to be clear. If they are born in Israel, how are they supposed to get out? You can't control where you're born. I'm not defending them, but I dislike when we say all because we're doing just what they're doing. Okay, no, let me clarify. If it sounded like I was saying that everyone in Israel is this way, that isn't what I meant to say. I'm speaking predominantly about the majority Israeli culture. But the thing with culture is that it is an opt-in. You're not born into culture. Well, you can be born into a culture, but at some point you have some level of agency. You can choose to continue to participate in that culture, and there are many Jews that don't. This is why I go out of my way to point out the many anti-Zionist Jews of whom I am a fan all the time on this channel. All the time. It isn't about where you're born. It isn't about your ethnicity. As far as Jewish people who are born there and who can't leave, well, then it probably behooves them to, I don't know, to do more within their own country. Like, again, I hold people accountable for the actions of their government to the extent that they actively and willingly support them. This is why I hold Christian Zionists more responsible for American brutality than I do Catholics, by and large. Because generally speaking, Christian Zionists are much more likely to argue for and provide political coverage to the U.S. war machine than the average Catholic is. At least, again, based on my interactions with Catholics. Catholics tend to actually, take seriously when Christ says, "Blessed are the peacemakers," Like that is something that they actually like, hey, maybe we should prioritize peacemaking. So how are they supposed to get out? Maybe they can't. Maybe they're stuck there. And I know for a fact that there are Israelis in Israel who are actively protesting and trying to make a change and who see what's happening there as horrific. Here's what I'll say. If it were me and I were in Israel, I would sell every piece of my possessions. I would give away everything I have to get out and go anywhere else. That's how strongly I feel about what is being done there. I've considered leaving the U.S. for the same reason. I just don't know where I would go. I don't know another place where I would be free of the influence of American imperialism. So anyway, I hope that I appreciate the pushback. I understand what you're saying. Rain, it's very sweet. Oh yeah, buy merch. The shirt on display this week is Israel Has a Right to Defend Itself. You can find that at MrQuigley33.com. Go there. There's the merch shop. A link to the merch shop is there. Go check that out. And I think that you asked me to say hi to Mamba.
Man, these midday streams are a lot better because this is when she sleeps all day anyway, so she's just kind of naturally there. Who's going to lead Project Mayhem? Hey, first rule of Project Mayhem is we don't talk about Project Mayhem, so I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, bud. Dracula, it was written about the bloodsuckers. I don't know. It sounds like you're referencing Mitsitsa Bepe. Could be. Mitsitsa Bepe. Everyone, your homework today is to look that up. Israel from the Bible is here in America. Yeah, I've said it before, I'll say it again. If you were to take the ancient Israelites from the Old Testament and transport them forward in time a few thousand years and give them a blank check politically, militarily, and also nukes, then you would get what you have now. It's the same shit, right down to the idolatry and the Satan worship and the pedophilia. It's the whole kit and caboodle, man. And it's why we reject the Old Testament and the laws of Moses, because they are insufficient and inferior. Thank you for the $10. I appreciate it very much. Have you seen the video of the man from Iceberg telling? Yes. Well, we watched that earlier. Sorry, these must be pretty old if I didn't get to that already. If we don't step up now, those kids people use as an excuse to do nothing. We'll have a worse nation with worse leaders. Inaction now dooms your children to worse conditions, and it's real. Yes, I mean, obviously, I think that the moral urgency is, to reduce the needless suffering and the pain and destruction that's happening on behalf of Israel in the Middle East and elsewhere. And also, guys, it's important to keep in mind that the whole situation with Iran, like the Iran situation, was 100% because of Israel, and they're holding the entire global population hostage. Like we're staring down the barrel of a total economic collapse and famine, like mass famine due to fertilizer shortages in Africa and South America, and like all the places that really depend on food coming out, or sorry, fertilizer coming through the Strait of Hormuz. We're talking about millions and millions of people that are probably already destined to famine unless something immediately changes, and it's all because of Israel. Like that's where we're at. That's why we focus on that on this channel. It's because they are holding the entire planet hostage. Thank you for the membership. Told my kid, Mr. Q thinks I'm a goddamn delight, so you better check yourself. And she said, well, obviously. Hold on. I'm going to see if I can find that. I need to find that clip because this was such a great clip. Hang on. Bear with me for just a second. I promise this is good. I promise this is worth watching. Here it is. I found it. Hang on.
Oh my god, dude, these stickers are so cool.
Wait. I gotta put it on screen. Here we go. So this was the clip that this level. So Rain, if you all remember, one was one of the winners of merch from the last live stream, and she sent me this. She sent me this unboxing video, which I really appreciated.
These stickers are so cool. I'm gonna make so many new friends. Love it.
That is a woman after my own heart right there.
Oh my god, dude, these stickers are so cool. I'm gonna make so many new friends. Love it.
What are you packing, girl? It looks like a 9mm to me from here, but I can't exactly tell from the video. Anyway, appreciate you very much. Thank you for the super. Thank you for the gifted memberships, Jim. Thank you. Please mention the No Thanks app. It identifies Israeli-owned products and okay, yeah, there's a few of these. There's the No Thanks app. There's a few of them. Avoid Israel products app. No Thanks, Boycat, and there was one other one that I thought was Disoccupied. Okay, so from what I understand, I can't vouch for No Thanks, but I have heard that Disoccupied is the best in terms of being up to date. Like they do a very good job of staying up to date. They have a scanner that you can put on your phone and scan products to check if they are made in Israel or as a product of settlement. Disoccupied.com. This is the one that I personally am aware of and will vouch for, and that I use on a semi-regular basis. And as far as I'm aware, this is the one that is like most frequently updated. So it's the one that I would recommend. Anyway, thank you for the super. Fake Israel. Israel is in America. Yeah, well, I mean, according to the Bible, Israel is the church.
Like according to the New Testament, the Church of Christ is Israel, or was it subsumed the place of Israel when Christ extended the blessings of God, the blessings of the Abrahamic covenant to Jews and Gentiles. There's neither Jew nor Gentile in Christ. So, if that's what you're referring to. Have you seen the Human Shields by the Stringini Brothers? I have, yes. I would really love to play it on the stream, but I don't want to get a copyright strike. Let me pull it up real quick. Yeah, this one right here. I don't. Wait. No, where's the animated one? This is not the animated one. Oh shit, did they take it down? Re-upload. They took it down. Holy shit, they took it down. Dude, this video had like 2 million views or something like that. They took it down. The sons of bitches. Okay, well, the Stringini Brothers. This comment, guys, go look this up. And it may not even. It may be that they pulled their channel. No, that's the channel right there. The Stringini Brothers. But yeah, I would highly recommend going checking this out because it's a very good video. But it looks like they pulled down the original, which is typical. Yes, it's a very good video. Go check it out. You've talked about black ignorance, but I think social engineering belongs in that conversation too. I've covered MK Ultra identity history in Israel in my Minority Report series. Worth a look. A New Sense Minority Report series. Okay, let me I'll write that down and I'll check it out. Okay, thank you for that. Just rewatched I Pet Goat 2 a while ago. The Revelation argument by evangelists always cracks me up. We all have our own end of days. Whether we make it to the revelation is irrelevant. Well, the kingdom of heaven is within us. I really think that I don't know, man. There are so many different ways to interpret it, but I think that the reason that Christ admonished his followers from predicting when the end of the world would be is because he wanted us to focus on this world. He wanted us to make this world a better place. And so often I see Christians who will use, oh, well, it's the end of days, so I don't have to worry about the fact that children are being butchered or sodomized. Like, I don't have to worry about that because, oh, well, we're all going to, the world's going to be blown up tomorrow anyway, so why should I have to worry about it? It's like, no, dude. The whole point is that the kingdom of heaven is within you, and that we were put on this earth, at least according to the Christian mythos, we were put on this earth to tend to the Garden of Eden. We are gardeners. The purpose of us being here is to tend to creation and be stewards of it. And the extent to which we have failed and continue to fail is staggering. And the fact that Christians will use the end times prophecies as an excuse for why they are not tending to their brothers and not being good Samaritans is shameful, frankly. And it pisses me off. Anyway, I think you're doing great. I'm just trying to understand all of this. Pushback is good because yes. Okay. Lots of Americans like you are moving to El Salvador. I've heard about El Salvador. I have an expat friend who just recently moved there. I appreciate the pushback always and forever. I really do. It really, understand. I wasn't trying to come down on you at all. I really do appreciate the pushback, and it does absolutely make the position better. All right, two more supers, and then we're back to it. 30% likes Bibi, 60% wants more settlers and killing, and 10% are against in Israel. Yeah, yes, that is my understanding as well, is that the Orthodox Jewish position in Israel is the overwhelming minority, and that 90% of Israel is in favor of, there's a bunch of people in Israel that are against Bibi because they don't think he's going far enough. There's he's not being hardline enough. He's not pushing the U.S. back into Iran, boots on the ground in Iran hard enough. The reason that Bibi is in trouble right now is not because he's doing too much. It's because he's not doing enough. Okay. So anyway, it's a good point. Electronic Intifada has good info YouTube. Yes, I completely agree. All right.
let's get back to this thing that we're doing here. Okay. So that was Greece. Let's talk about the UK. So I wanted to draw some attention to the case of Dr. David Miller. This is a big deal, guys. Dr. David Miller was I guess now is again, a college professor in the UK who was fired by the University of Bristol in October. So 5 years ago, this guy was fired. And it just came down that, and he was fired because he made allegedly anti-Zionist and also anti-Semitic comments during his time there and in his professorial position, mostly when talking to students. And so he was fired. And then just a few weeks ago, I think, it may have even been last week, but like within the last month, his case was like, they determined that he had been unjustly fired and that the things that he had said, which were anti-Zionist, were perfectly okay for him to say. Free speech in Britain is suffering pretty terribly, but this was a huge deal. This is a huge deal, guys, for the UK, a major victory for freedom of speech. So these are the things that he said. These are, and again, I had an AI pull these quotes, but I did go back and check, and I believe that these are all accurate. Plus, it's an AI, so they're incentivized to make things that anti-Zionists say sound even worse than they actually are. But anyway, what he said was, Zionism is and always has been a racist, violent, imperialist ideology premised on ethnic cleansing. It is an endemically anti-Arab and Islamophobic ideology. It has no place in any society. Okay, so that was one instance. Seems pretty anti-Semitic to me. On the enemy of the left, the Zionist movement and the Israeli government are the enemy of the left, the enemy of world peace, and they must be directly targeted. Again, notice he's not talking about individual people. He's not talking about an ethnicity. He's talking about a political ideology. Okay? He's talking about a political ideology and movement and the consequences of it. Okay? He's not said anything about any individual people so far, right? On anti-Semitism and Islamophobia, quote, parts of the Zionist movement are involved in funding Islamophobia. They're also part of, this is an aside, but they're also part of funding things like ISIS and Al-Qaeda and Hamas and, terrorist organizations. Anyway, continuing the quote, it is a matter of public record that Islamophobic organizations and movements are in receipt of funding from specific groups and individuals. Some of these are also prominent in the Zionist movement. So again, when did he say anything that was racist? He didn't. He's targeting a political ideology. A few other quotes. So these were the ones that actually got him fired. The other ones got him in trouble, but these are the statements that actually got him fired because he specifically talked about two different student groups, the JSOCS and the UJS. I don't actually have the definition of those acronyms, but they're two prominent pro-Israel student organizations, pro-Zionist student organizations in Britain. And this is what he said about that. The JSOCs are all part of the UJS, and the UJS is a member of the World Union of Jewish Students, which is a direct member of the World Zionist Organization. Again, where's the problem here? Bristol's JSOCs, like all JSOCs, operates under the auspices of the Union of Jewish Students, an Israel lobby group. The UJS is constitutionally bound to promoting Israel and campaigns to silence critics of Zionism or the state of Israel on British campuses. The campaign of censorship renders Arab and Muslim students as well as anti-Zionist Jewish students particularly unsafe. And finally, the UJS lobbying for Israel is a threat to the safety of Arab and Muslim students as well as of Jewish students and indeed of all critics of Israel. So he even says there in that last one, he's even like, look, this is also a problem for the Jewish students. Like these organizations are causing Jewish students who maybe don't agree with them to be targeted. Seems pretty racist to me, but okay. So he was found, it was determined that his firing had been completely unjust. This guy was in the UK. This is in the UK.
This was I found this little piece here from another video on the subject. This was from the decision by the court. It was coherent to describe as racist, an ideology that promoted the establishment of a state for only one race of people in a territory that contained a large number of people from a different race. Huh. So you're saying it's racist for an ideology to promote the establishment of a state for only one race? Really? That's racist? They must be using some older version of race that didn't exclusively, or racist that didn't exclusively apply to white people, but okay. If the ideology was said also to involve the migration of members of Group A into the territory with the support of imperial power to dislodge an indigenous population comprised of Group B, it could legitimately and coherently be described as colonial and imperialistic. No shit, Sherlock. If it involves imperialistic colonial conquering, then it is in fact colonial and imperialistic. Go figure. This was a British court. This is a British court. This isn't some political opinion piece from some libjo. This is a British court that decided this. I have a quick summary of it. A quick video that describes the case. By the way, this channel, excellent channel. I was not familiar with it before researching this, but I do recommend it. I've seen a few videos now. It's Dimitri Lascaris. Excellent stuff. And he put out this video 8 days ago. Excellent stuff. He's got 200K subscribers, and his production value is literally just him talking into a camera. That's how you know it's good journalism. Anyway, highly recommend. Check it out. We'll just watch the first 5 or 10 minutes of this.
Good day. This is Dimitri Lascaris coming to you from Montreal, Canada
I'll
for
speed
Reason
it
to
up a little
Resist on
bit.
August 6, 2026. Dr. David Miller has just scored a major legal victory in the United Kingdom for the cause of anti-Zionism. In 2021, the University of Bristol, where Dr. Miller was then employed as a professor of political sociology, dismissed him for alleged gross misconduct. The basis of the dismissal was criticism he had made about Zionism and certain Zionist student groups. Dr. Miller then brought a case against the university before the Employment Tribunal in the United Kingdom, and he argued, of course, that his dismissal was wrongful. After the Employment Tribunal ruled in Dr. Miller's favor, the University of Bristol went all out to appeal to the Employment Appeal Tribunal, and on Tuesday of this week, in a landmark decision, the Employment Appeal Tribunal dismissed the University of Bristol's appeal and upheld the core part of the Employment Tribunal's decision. And here you can see the first part of the judgment published on August 4th, 2020.
Skip ahead a little bit.
Why were you dismissed from the University of Bristol in October 21? What were the essential reasons given to you?
Well, so what happened was that that some anonymous students, made a complaint through an Israel lobby group after I did a lecture in February 2019 on Islamophobia. And that was the beginning of the process. The complaint was rejected in the summer of 2019, but nevertheless, the Israel lobby group, the Community Security Trust, then went to the Union of Jewish Students, which is a Zionist student group, signed up to the World Union of Jewish Students, signed up to the World Zionist Organization, and approached them to make a complaint. And they did that through their local Bristol branch, and that complaint was accepted. So although the student who made the complaint, the president of the Bristol Jewish Society, was never a student of mine, never been joining my classes, didn't appear to know anything about me, she put in a complaint, and that was then taken by the university and was eventually rejected. And then they said that they suggested to her that she might want to appeal her complaint after the university had decided whether it was going to adopt the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance working definition of anti-Semitism. So they duly did that, lobbied for by the Bristol Jewish Society, of course, in December 2019. They then resurrected the complaint, retroactively judging me on rules they just brought in, and they appointed an external lawyer, a QC as it was then known, who investigated me for most of the period of 2019 and found that there wasn't a word, a comma, a sentence, a paragraph I'd ever said or written which was anti-Semitic. So the case was closed, and that would have been it, except for the fact that the university wouldn't tell anyone that I had been found not to be anti-Semitic. So I was still getting defamed by some of these student groups and by the press, and they wouldn't tell anyone. So I went on this meeting 6 weeks later and said, I've been attacked and complained about. That was the actual words I used. And then all hell broke loose. They said that this was an outrage. I shouldn't have mentioned that I'd been attacked and complained about by student groups. And they therefore instituted a further inquiry into me, not prompted by any complaints. The university decided by itself to do that. And that inquiry appointed the same lawyer who again determined that I had said nothing at all which was illegal or anti-Semitic or in any way showed any problematic forms. But they nevertheless decided internally that although my conduct wasn't anti-Semitic, it was not professional, and that I should be dismissed for gross misconduct. And I was duly dismissed on the 1st of October 2021. I took the tribunal, the university to tribunal. We won in February 2024. And the key parts of that judgment, which have been emphasized again by the appeal tribunal, were that I wasn't dismissed for being unprofessional, that the reason I was dismissed was that I had anti-Zionist views and expressed them. And furthermore, the court determined that anti-Zionist views were, to use the quotation from the legislation, worthy of respect.
Guys, worthy of respect. A British court decides, quote, that anti-Zionist views are worthy of respect under British law. That is fucking huge. Okay? We got anyone from UK in the chat? Because like that seems like kind of a big deal. Okay? That seems like kind of a big deal to me. Just based on what I've known about what's going down in UK with free speech laws in the recent past, seems like kind of a big deal for a major UK court to decide that specifically, two things. Number one, not only is anti-Zionism not the same thing as anti-Semitism, which would have been enough on its own, but that anti-Zionist views are worthy of respect and not justification for any kind of punitive measures. That is massive. Massive stuff, guys. This is why I wanted to linger on this and just kind of take a second with it, because I know this may be a little bit dry for some folks, but like that's a very big deal. Anyway, I just wanted to he's going to talk a little bit about like the actual trial and what all went into it. So like
democratic society. So anti-Zionist views are not racist. They're worthy of respect in the democratic society. They're proper, coherent, and clear views. And that was the establishment of the idea in British law that you can't discriminate against someone who has anti-Zionist views. The university, in its wisdom, then decided to appeal that decision, and their appeal has been flatly and roundly rejected by the court. And that, of course, has the effect of making a legal precedent. So everybody henceforth who comes to an industrial tribunal and an employment tribunal, that tribunal cannot take decisions which go against the judgment of this appeal tribunal, since it's a higher court.
That means that other people that are fired for expressing criticisms of Israel now have legal precedent to sue their employers for wrongful termination in fucking Britain. That's a big deal, guys. I think it's a big deal. Maybe I'm a little nerdy. Maybe I'm a little nerdier than everybody else. But like, as someone who watches a lot of true crime and a lot of legal proceeding, like that is a huge win. Yeah, big win, big W for the UK.
So that's what we've done. We've established a legal principle, a legal precedent that anti-Zionist views are now protected in British law, and that's the scale of the victory which we won.
So I'd like to hone in on what the views are that you hold, which the court determined to be, or the tribunal determined to be protected. And I'm putting up here on the screen paragraph 25 from the appeal tribunal's decision issued this week. And they wrote, the specific beliefs founded upon the claimant were set out in a list of issues that was established in pre-hearing case management. They were that A, political Zionism, which the claimant defines as an ideology that a state for Jewish people ought to be established and maintained in the territory that formerly comprised the British Mandate of Palestine, is inherently racist, imperialistic, and colonial.
Guys, are we all paying attention here? Do you see this? This they agreed with this. Like that's they came to the conclusion that this opinion, the thing that he's saying right here, is worthy of respect. That political Zionism, which the claimant defines as an ideology that a state for Jewish people ought to be established and maintained in the territory that formerly comprised the British Mandate of Palestine. I'm sorry, no, this is the plaintiff. This is what they struck down. The idea that is inherently racist, imperialistic, and no. Okay. I'm confusing myself here. this is what David Miller was saying, is that Zionism is inherently racist, imperialistic, and colonial, and they defended his right to believe that. Anyway, I'll stop. Just
And
a few
B,
more minutes.
political Zionism ought therefore to be opposed. Now, David, could you just summarize for us what arguments the university advanced that these beliefs were not worthy of protection?
Well, originally in the tribunal, and let's remember the tribunal was started on the 23rd of October, 2023, so shortly after, days after the launch of Al-Aqsa Flood by the Palestinian resistance. So not necessarily an auspicious date to start the proceedings. But the university decided that they, as soon as the tribunal started, that they were going to change their case and decide to make a case that my views were not worthy of respect in a democratic society. They'd never advanced that before, but that's what they decided on the day. And so they had to go away just after almost as soon as the tribunal started, and reformulate their case. So that was the beginnings of the end for their case, because they came back and the most senior university witness had to sit in court and say that my views were not worthy of respect in a democratic society. So of course, the first thing that my lawyer said was, so you think that Professor Miller's views are akin to Nazism? And she said, oh, no, I don't think that. And he said, but that is the legal test. Views which are not worthy of respect in a democratic society are, by definition, akin to Nazism. And so she got very flustered and she didn't know what to say. And eventually she had to leave the room and come back and to determine which of the two alternatives she believed were.
So if I can just jump in here real quick, I believe, and if there's people in the UK or people that are more familiar with this particular legal precedent than I am, I think that what he's saying here is that the foundation, the legal framework by which they decide that some speech is not acceptable within polite society is Nazism. That neo-Nazi rhetoric is the standard by which they compare speech to decide whether or not it is acceptable or legally defensible, like legally protected speech. And so the question was pushed to the university to say, oh, so you're saying this guy's a Nazi because he thinks that Zionism is racist. And they're like, oh, well, no. And they're like, well, that's what that's what you're saying, dipshit. That's the position that you're taking, is that this guy's a Nazi because he thinks that Zionism is imperialist and colonialist and racist. Do you understand how much your head up your own ass you have to be in order to think something like that? That this guy's position, that Zionism is inherently racist and imperialistic and colonialism, is the same thing as Nazism. It's insane. Anyway. Just another minute of this.
Where my views akin to Nazism or not, and she determined in the end that they were akin to Nazism. And of course, that was the end of their case, really, because what happened was that my lawyer had said to her, "Do you think that it would be racist for the white people of the UK to push out all of the non-white people into perhaps somewhere like Wales or Scotland?" And it was a beautiful moment there. The judge intervened, and he said, "Do you mean all of the non-white people?" And my lawyer said, "Oh, no, 2/3 of 2/3 of the non-white people," and that henceforth they wouldn't be able to come back, and they'd be denied rights and housing, jobs, and there'd be discrimination and apartheid. Would that be racist?
So what they're referencing here, for those that haven't seen the Workrooms video, is the Nakba. So the hypothetical that's being presented before the court is, would it be racist to kick out 2/3 of the non-white population of a particular country and to push them into like Wales or Ireland or something like that? Would that be racist to do something like that and to deny them rights and deny them housing and deny them the right to return? Would that be racist? That's a really good question. That is wow. What an interesting question.
Yes, that would be racist. Would it be wrong for a professor to say that was racist? No, it would not be wrong. Racist. And so he then said, went to the example again, except in relation to Palestine. And it was just, she just didn't know what to do. She admitted in the end that Zionism was racism, at the same time as saying that if you believed that your views were akin to Nazism. So they were absolutely caught in a cleft stick of their own making, and they destroyed the case. That was the moment the case was destroyed. There was no way of coming back from that. And so,
anyway, that was
we can move on. But just like I love how much, again, your head up your own ass you have to be to think that saying that the Nakba was racist and that Zionist ideology is racist, the idea that saying that thing is akin to being a Nazi it's the foundation of Zionism. It's the entire bedrock upon which Zionism rests, which is just pathologically insane. Anyway, yeah, we can move on. I just wanted to big props to David Miller. You know, I feel like he's kind of a British Brett Weinstein, you know, in that like in that, you know, college professor who was sacked, as they say, for expressing allegedly racist things. And then it turns out, yeah, King David. Hold on, wait, let me grab that comment. King David, hell yeah. Oh man, I love that. King David indeed. Yeah. So this guy, he was totally vindicated, and not only that, but because he stuck to his guns, and he said, no, fuck you, I'm not racist, you're racist. Because he did that, now they've established new legal precedent in the highest court in the land, in Britain, that says that if you are fired, if you are discriminated against, because you express a perfectly legitimate position that Zionism bad, that you can sue your employer. So, anyway. Big, no, he isn't. God almighty. Why? He is not, though. I really wish that I could, are you thinking of his brother? This is the thing. It's not Eric. Eric is a moron, but they're not the same people. Anyway, you're wrong. I'm just going to say. Having now had by the way, I got the opportunity to have a one-on-one conversation with Brett a few weeks ago, or last week. A member of the channel bought me a membership to his $100 Patreon level, and I actually got to have a Zoom call, and I actually got to have a one-on-one dialogue briefly with Brett Weinstein, which is a huge honor for me. But no, he's not a Zionist. You're a moron if you think that. Like, find me one example of him defending Israeli anything. Like, a few weeks after October 7th, he hosted an Israeli whistleblower talking about how October 7th didn't make any sense. Anyway, not to linger on that. I'm just sick of, yeah, yes, thank you. Yes, this, Eric and Brett are not the same human being. Anyway, sorry. I don't have strong opinions about it. I'm just like, I wish that they wouldn't confuse the two of them. Anyway. All right, let's move on from Britain. Big shout out to King David Miller. Appreciate you, brother. Good sticking to your guns on that. Now I want to move on to, do we have any big supers, or can we just move straight on? We got a couple. We got like 4. I'll knock them out real quick. You should do an interview with Cato DeZora, and then I also have another follow-up $2. Okay, I will write that down. Cato DeZora interview. Okay, you know, I'm still getting used to the fact that like now I can just kind of say people's names and then they manifest themselves in my email inbox and they're like, hey, you want to have a conversation? Like, it's crazy to me. I can just do that now. I can just go to another person's channel and be like, hey, people think that we should talk, and they're like, hey, let's do that. It's crazy, dude. Like, what is this? This is wild. I will reach out. Thanks for the heads up. $5 from O'Diggity. It's a kick-ass profile, but I'm an American born to Israeli parents, given an Israeli name. I've always hated, but felt silly changing. Now it might be wise for safety. Yeah, I mean, so I got a little pushback from one of my videos. I think it was my "Who is a Jew" video, where I said that people that are born into Jewish families would do well to stop identifying as Jewish. And I didn't say that because I think that people should be ashamed of how they were born or their ethnicity, but I do think that given that there is a deliberate effort by certain very powerful, very moneyed people to conflate the Jewish ethnicity with Zionism and Israeli war crimes, you run the risk of, if you self-identify as an ethnic Jew, of being caught up in the inevitable backlash against
against Zionism. And it's unfortunate. It's not something that I celebrate. And again, this is why I try to point out anti-Zionist Jews whenever I have the opportunity. But I can't just from a pure like pragmatic game theory standpoint, man, like I can't blame you for doing that. And I don't celebrate that. Like just from you to me personally, like I'm not sitting over here saying like, yeah, everyone who is born into guilt by association with this warmongering genocidal Nazi death camp over there. Like I sympathize, and I wish that it weren't the case. And I wouldn't blame you for doing that. So, $10. Money's real. Europeans who emigrated to Israel and displaced people who lived there for 1,000 years do not equate to displacing Somalis in the UK who were let in 5 years ago. Correct. I'm inclined to agree with that. I think that it comes down to and I've said it before, but it comes down to a property rights issue, you know, like, and I want to get into this a little bit later because I want to talk about like, you know, people push back on me because I'm an anarchist and they're like, oh, well, you're an anarchist. You're a libertarian. Why would you think that borders are a thing? You know, people should be able to come and go as they wish. It's like, no, that's not what that means. What it means is that the people who decide on the borders, the people who decide on who should be let into and allowed into communities isn't a state. It's the people. It's the people living in that country. If you're part of an organization, any organization based on voluntary cooperation and integration, you should have the right to decide, we only want these people to be in it, and we don't want those people to be in it. You should have that right. I am a freedom of association absolutist. I think that anyone should be allowed to self-segregate and self-assimilate in by whatever metric they want, right? Because the alternative is to allow powerful people, moneyed interests to decide who to let into your community, who's allowed to interact with you. And no, absolutely not. So in this situation, you have a group of Europeans who are being invaded by people who do not live there, who do not share the culture, who do not even have a compatible culture. No, sorry. Two wrongs don't make a right. And the fact that, you know, Europe and NATO, or rather powerful people in NATO and the US have perpetuated in destabilizing all of those countries, and that's a big contributing factor as to why the Middle East and Africa are so fucked up and why there's so many people trying to get out and get into wealthier countries. Sorry, that doesn't justify destroying the West as well. Okay, two wrongs don't make a right, and destroying the West isn't going to help any of those people. It's just going to, you're not going to lift up those people by bringing in that many of them at the same time. You're just going to lower the standard of living in the West until it is also a third world country, which doesn't help anybody. The thing that should be done is that we should stop bombing the Middle East and stop exploiting Africa and South America for their natural resources and focus on our own cultures and getting the corruption and degradation out. That would be my solution. Wild idea, I know, but you know. Anyway, well, I'll touch on that a little bit later. I have some more thoughts on that, but hey, appreciate the $10. Also born to a Jew and think Judaism, Talmudism is in general is hugely problematic. For Cato, watch his interview with Ian Wendt, the 2000. Okay, let me write that down. Interview with Ian Wendt. That is a last name. Okay, I'll check that out. Yeah, also born to a Jew and think Judaism, Talmudism in general is yeah, it is. It's fucking grotesque. Like this is the pushback that I have on people that are like, oh well, Orthodox Jews are anti-Zionist, so you must be friendly with them. It's like, no, dude, the Talmud is horrific. This is why I want to do an episode on the Talmud, because it is absolutely horrific. It is like a handbook on how to be a psychopath and also feel righteous about it while you're doing it. It's really horrific. You know, like at least with the Bible, like there's horrific stuff in the Old Testament in the Bible, but at least we have the Gospels, which were like, hey, don't do that shit anymore. You know, like there's nothing in the Talmud, as far as I'm aware, that says, hey, maybe don't be pedophiles. You know, or anyway, I need to do a video on it, but let me just say this. I don't firmly stand behind that thing that I just said because I need to do more research on it. But as far as I can tell, there's not a lot in the Talmud. When people say you're taking that verse out of context, it's like, okay, well, what's the context? Does the context include that those verses that say that this horrible activity is okay? Is there another verse that says that it isn't okay anymore? Because I'm pretty sure that in a lot of cases there isn't that additional context that would help to negate the horrible shit. Anyway. Brother, thank you for what you do. I sent you an email about your universal logic discussion. I wonder if you received it. I probably did. Guys, if you guys have been sending me emails, I have a huge backlog that I have to catch up on. I've been super busy for the past forever. So if you sent it, I probably have it. It may be in my spam folder. I will check. I appreciate the $5. I will try to follow up. I'm trying to get better about that. Anyway, all right, moving on. What do we got up next? Oh, Spain. Okay, see, I briefly wanted to talk about the... change my screen. Espanol. Let's talk about the Ceuta border rush situation. So this one is kind of interesting. So there's already been a lot of really good reporting on it, but I just wanted to give kind of a brief overview of it because it kind of fits into the theme of weaponized migration, right? The thing that we started talking about at the very beginning. So this was a very interesting situation where apparently, like, what was it? Like 100,000? It was like 80,000 Moroccans crossed into Spain, technically Spain, not mainland Spain, but like this weird little sliver of it. It's like one of the only places in Africa that is bordering Europe, technically speaking, because they still have this little sliver of land right there on the northern coast of Africa. But what was interesting about it is that it was coordinated through mass social media campaigns, which did not appear to be organic at all. And when I say like tens of thousands, like 70,000, mostly military-aged men, as they like to say, crossed over. Yeah, here's the image of it. So you've got, let me make myself smaller. So here, you can see. So you've got, this is the northern tip of the Strait of Gibraltar. And you've got this tiny little sliver of land that is still technically Spain right here. And that's where they crossed into. So it's not like they swam across the strait. They just like hopped around this little fence right here and got in. But 70,000 of them. Good golly, that's a lot of people. And again, it's important to remember that the same damn thing happened back in 2021. The same damn thing happened. And the Moroccan government deliberately allowed it to happen. They deliberately lowered their border security and allowed tens of thousands of people to cross into this little sliver of Spain as a way of punishing Spain for, well, in this case, in the most recent case, it's pretty clear that it was for their anti-Israel sentiment, for being as based as they are, or at least as much as the political class is. And again, yeah, it appeared that there was a social media campaign that was very inorganic, and we'll get into some clips later. But the major question is, did Israel or the U.S. do this thing? Well, we start with cui bono, right? We start with saying, well, who benefits? Who has Spain been pissing in the oat milk of for a minute now? Well, it would be Israel. Who does Morocco have very close ties with? Well, Morocco has very close ties with Israel, as it turns out. We have here, I think this was either earlier this year or late last year, we had Moroccan military officers arrive in Israel to join the force committing the genocide in Gaza. So, you also have the fact that Spain has been very, 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 very critical of Israel and the U.S., saying that Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu's contempt for life and international law is intolerable, accused Israel of violating international law and the newly brokered ceasefire. I don't remember exactly when this was, but it was recent. It's one of the who can keep track of all the times that Israel has violated a ceasefire with either Gaza or Lebanon or whoever. Like, it's when any one of the dozens of times that Israel decided to do that. Now, when we're talking about the possibility of Israel having done this thing, I have a couple of one of the stronger pieces of evidence was the fact that there were a lot of prominent Israeli individuals and politicians and political commentators who immediately started celebrating and gloating as Spain was dealing with this humanitarian crisis of having tens of thousands of people, mostly probably poor and hungry people, crossing over the border. So here we have, I'll make myself a little bit smaller here. So this is the top one is the, excuse me, wow, that was rowdy. The top one is the Israeli ambassador to the UN. Spain, which never misses an opportunity to lecture Israel, has declared a state of emergency in Ceuta following the crisis over its immigration policy. Maybe before it continues lecturing us, it's time to explain to the world why it maintains colonial enclaves in, and there was probably more to that, but nobody fucking cares. So got 12.5 million views on that, so that's good, I guess. There was also literally fucking Satan himself, Ben Gvir, saying, "My congratulations to the president of the government of Spain, Pedro Sanchez, for his profound commitment to welcoming immigration and human diversity," quote unquote. "As someone who demonstrates great concern for Hamas and the residents of Gaza, I call on you to translate words into actions, open the doors of Spain, and grant refuge to the residents of Gaza who seek to emigrate. This is an excellent opportunity to contribute a little more to Spain's human diversity." So just mocking Spain as this apparently weaponized, inflicted mass migration event is taking place. I think there's a few more in here. Yeah, so we've got on the left, we've got the son of Bibi Netanyahu saying, "Dear Arabs and Muslims, want to free occupied Arab Islamic lands? Here's a good start." And he's pointing to a bunch of these port places in Morocco. And then on the right here, we've got, who is this guy? This is Yav Kaufman, who I think is he's a professor, or he's some prominent Israeli individual. And he said, 2 states for 2 nations living side by side in peace and prosperity. So calling for Spain to be split up and partitioned out. Anyway, so this is probably one of the bigger pieces of evidence that Israel had something to do with it, just the fact that they were gloating about it. We do have a couple of other, there was a bunch of decent reporting on this event, but here's one of them. No, wait, I'm sorry. This is not the thing. Hang on. No. I'm not gonna do this. Hang on. Let me scroll down a little bit. Oh, here we go. This is from Michael McCarthy.
Israel's connection to what happened in Ceuta. People have asked me to talk about this. In May 2019, Benjamin Netanyahu's son Yair posted this: "Dear Arabs and Muslims, want to free occupied Arab Islamic lands? Here's a good start." He attached a map of Ceuta and Melilla. Then he followed up, "Let's make a deal. We won't fund NGOs in your country calling you to give away Ceuta and Melilla, and you will stop funding NGOs in our country that call us to give away Judea and Samaria." Fast forward to 2026. In March, Michael Rubin, an American Jewish man, published 2 pieces calling on Morocco to launch a new Green March into Ceuta and Melilla. Unarmed civilians, bulldozers, raised the Moroccan flag. He said NATO's mutual defense clause wouldn't even apply. In April, Amin Ayoub...
So again, these are prominent Israeli individuals that are openly instigating and calling for this thing to happen. And then just a few months later, it just so happens that there's this massive inorganic social media campaign that's pushing for Moroccan citizens to flood over the border. So yeah, just a little coinky-dink, I guess.
Wrote in Ynet, one of Israel's biggest news sites, Israel should help Morocco claim the enclaves. It would punish Spain for obstructing American and Israeli priorities, and it would be a strategic investment in the partner that controls one of the world's most vital maritime choke points, Strait of Gibraltar. On July 30th, Israel's ambassador to the UN, Danny Danon, posted Spain should explain to the world why it maintains colonial enclaves in Africa. The Israeli embassy in Spain had to distance itself the next day. Then, on August 1st, a Times of Israel blog declared Spain had already lost Ceuta and urged Morocco to finish the job. His words. With Israeli and American backing under the Abraham Accords. So why does this benefit Israel? This is what They said in writing, not me. Control of the southern shore of the Strait of Gibraltar, a reliable military partner instead of a hostile Spanish government that criticizes Israel.
Are we noticing any similarities, any comparisons to be made with Iran in this situation and the Strait of Hormuz? Are we picking up any similar vibes here?
Recognized Palestine and blocked US bases, punishment for obstruction, deeper Abraham Accords cooperation, permanent surveillance and influence over one of the planet's key shipping lanes without needing Spain's permission. So how did the surge happen? It came from hashtag Haraga. Haraga means irregular migrants who burn their documents so they can't be sent back. It's amazing they even have a word for that. For weeks, a coordinated campaign ran across TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp. Videos of previous successful crossings, maps, meeting points, equipment lists, claims that a Spanish court ruling meant that the border was now open and no one could be returned.
It also sounds pretty familiar to the stuff that was going on with the southern border in the United States, with a lot of misinformation, a lot of people spreading the idea that if you crossed over into the States before a particular time, like Biden had opened the border. Kind of eerily familiar, isn't it? Very, very similar to just other things, other situations that also NGOs investing in it and pushing people and getting them to come over.
Campaign peaked on and around Morocco's Throne Day. Tens of thousands moved. Border controls on the Moroccan side were reported as unusually light. You can go on TikTok and type in Haraga and see for yourself. I thought illegal activity was banned on these platforms.
Well, there you go. There was also an Owen Jones breakdown on the Israeli social media accounts.
Now, what specifically about Israel? Israel was unquestionably jubilant about the crisis and exploited the crisis. Danny Danon, Israel's US ambassador, declared, Spain, which never misses an opportunity to lecture Israel, has declared a state of emergency in Ceuta following the crisis over its immigration policy. Notably, Spain has not declared any state of emergency. Meanwhile, the far-right Israeli minister and thug, Itamar Ben-Gvir, demanded Sanchez open the doors of Spain and grant refuge to the residents of Gaza who seek to emigrate. We know that a crucial element in the crossing was that anonymous social media account circulated a specific message that the Spanish border was open and people could enter without documents. Some posts identified routes with less police surveillance, gave Google Map directions, and even listed places for would-be migrants to get wetsuits, fins, floats, and waterproof bags.
This is fucking crazy. Like, why? Okay. They're just like, mapping it out. Like, here you go. Here's what to do. Here's where to go. Here's how to get the equipment.
One case, one account acquired more than 20,000 followers before suddenly disappearing. According to El País, indeed, the original accounts largely vanished, automated amplification could have been involved, and the trigger has not been identified. Listen here to one migrant explaining what he saw on social media.
So you read a news article that said that if you came here, you could claim asylum and live in Spain. And you read that and then you decided to swim over.
It says Spain has opened the door.
It said Spain has opened the door. This was on social media. On what, on Twitter or Instagram? Or?
Facebook, Instagram.
After the crisis exploded, the Spanish fact-checking organization Maldita documented the rapid appearance of hashtag Free Ceuta and hashtag Free Melilla.
Okay, I want you to pay attention to something. Okay, this also applies to signs that you see at protests. So when you see, I'll try to move my thing out of the way here a little bit, but notice this actually might just be the news site that put that graphic together, but I thought that was the social media post. But the principle still applies. When you're at protests and things like that, and you see people with professionally printed signs, keep in mind that that was an organization that did that. Okay. I put a lot more stock in protests where people have hand printed and hand painted signs than I do rallies where 50 different people have the exact same professionally printed sign, because those people are carrying that sign on behalf of someone with money. All as I'm saying. It may not apply in this situation, but just something to keep in mind. Little word to the wise there.
From Israeli and pro-Israeli accounts. Furthermore, Al Jazeera's open source unit did a broad analysis and found dozens of known and anonymous Israel-linked to Israeli supporting accounts using almost identical framing, repeated maps, phrases, and hashtags, AI-generated scenes exaggerating disorder in Ceuta, posts describing the crisis as Spain's punishment for supporting Palestine, participation by Hanania Natfali, a former digital media official associated with Benjamin Netanyahu, closely aligned timing and wording, which is investigators regarded as strongly suggestive of central coordination. Now, that does not by itself prove that Israel was behind these accounts, but it would be extraordinarily naive to pretend Israel lacks either the means or the record to carry out precisely this sort of operation.
Okay. I want to riff on that for just a quick second, if you'll allow me. So somebody asked this question, I think, either during the last live stream or during the last Q&A, and they asked, are you worried about Israel derangement syndrome? Are you worried about, casting a net too broad and saying, well, Israel did this, Israel did that, because it might discredit your position. Hey, appreciate you. Thank you, brother. Thank you for letting me go on a tangent. So the idea that we might cast our nets too broad and attribute activity to Israel that isn't theirs. I think the example that they gave was 9/11, which inspired me to then go do those 2 videos on the connections between Israel and 9/11, because I was like, bud, there's a lot there, bro. Like you're not giving them credit. There's a lot of sketchy shit between Israel and 9/11. But am I worried about casting a net too wide? Am I worried about Israel derangement syndrome? Am I worried about discrediting my own position by saying Israel did things that maybe it turns out they didn't do? No. For 2 big reasons. Number one, because we are in a war right now. We are in a propaganda war, and the odds are stacked against us. The money and the organization behind the Zionist lobby is massive and overwhelming. Some of the most powerful and influential and wealthy people on the planet are behind the Zionist agenda, and they are pumping all of the money that they can into it. Okay? So this is guerrilla warfare, information warfare, and we are on the scraggly rebel underdog side of things. Okay? So I'm okay with fighting dirty a little bit. The other reason that I'm not as worried about it is it all depends on, nobody's going to get everything right 100% of the time, right? Nobody has a perfect 100% track record. Okay. To me, it isn't about being right 100% of the time. It's about being right more often than I'm wrong. Okay. Getting that 51% or greater success rate. So if my starting position is, when we're looking at something like this, when we're looking at the invasion of Spain by all of these migrants, and we see that there's some weird, sketchy stuff with Israel. If my starting position is that Israel had nothing to do with it versus my starting position being that Israel did it, at this point, which of those is more likely to be true? Or fuck it, let's expand that even further. Let's say anything in the world that is happening right now that benefits Israel, what are the odds that Israel has some hand in it? Probably greater than 50%. And so this is where I come down on it, is that, like, in the same way that my starting position with anything that has to do with the US government, like anytime the US government says anything to me, my default position is that they're lying to me, or that if they're telling me the truth, it's because they couldn't figure out a more profitable lie. Okay. Does that mean I'm going to get stuff wrong sometimes? Does it mean that I may disbelieve them when they are actually telling me the truth? Sure. That may be the consequence, but I think that it is a much safer starting point, a much safer first principle to assume that they're lying to me until proven otherwise, than the alternative. So what Owen is here saying is, do we know? Well, we don't know, but we know, as Candace would say. It's reasonable. It's reasonable to assume that Israel had something to do with this. And I'm tired of being gaslit into saying that it isn't reasonable to assume that Israel had a hand in destabilizing a Western country that is critical of them by weaponizing non-combatant migrants. Because they have a track record of doing that. Okay? So, anyway.
So that's kind of the gist of like what I wanted to talk about, actually. Oh, Mamba is gone. She's actually right over here. You can't see her, but she's just off camera. She just I don't know. She just didn't want to be back there anymore. Mamba, what are you doing, baby? She's watching me. She's just looking at me. She's still around, I promise. So how do we feel about this, guys? You know, as we're wrapping things up here, you know, we're talking about weaponized migration. We're talking about the use of non-combatant civilians pushing non-combatant civilians into Western countries in order to destabilize them. There's a lot of problems with that. The biggest one for me is that the use of non-combatant civilians in this way, the effectiveness of that strategy scales up with the liberal values and the compassion of the country being targeted. The more that a country is willing to take in hungry migrants, to take in unaccompanied children, or fuck it, to take in, you know, military-aged men, the more willing that they are to do that, the more effective the strategy becomes. And so in a sense, this is the, maybe not strictly Christian, but it is the kind of Western egalitarian mindset being used, being weaponized against us. And I say us broadly speaking, against these Western countries. And so what is the solution other than to become less tolerant of it? What is the solution other than to restrict it? Or sacrifice our homelands and to sacrifice and allow our cultures to be destroyed and denigrated? Again, I don't think that two wrongs make a right. You know, something that I was thinking about earlier today was as I was kind of contemplating this and like whether or not people should have the right to self-associate and self-segregate, which I do believe they should. I was thinking about, and this may seem like a bit of a stretch, but the Return to the Land compound. Is anyone familiar with this? This is a group of, absolutely they are white nationalists in Arkansas who bought a bunch of land and have decided that they want to have a whites only compound, basically. Like, I think it's like 150 acres they bought, and they just want to have like a town, basically. I think there's only like 40, 50 people living there so far, but they just want to have a place where they can go and be white supremacists by themselves. And, you know, what should your position be on something like that? Is it just the fact that they're white supremacists that you take issue with? Wouldn't you prefer, if you find white supremacy to be so odious, that you would want them to go off into the woods and do their own thing far away from everybody else? Why would you want to force people like that? Yes, thank you. Yes, this exactly. Why would you not want that? Why would you not want people that don't want to be around you to go and be somewhere else on their own? Why would you not want that? And did you hear why exactly they're being sued? Have you heard what exactly happened to them? Hang on. Arkansas Housing Development for White and Straight Families Only is sued for discrimination by Michelle Walker. Guess who Michelle Walker is? Hold on. Maybe it's in this. Yeah. Walker, who is of Jewish ancestry. is married to a black man and has biracial children. Guys, why? The Nazis decided that they wanted to go off into the woods. They wanted to go off into the woods and be away from you. And you decided, like, she's suing them for discrimination. She's suing them because she tried to buy a house, or she tried to buy land there and they told her no. And so she's using her black husband and her two biracial children as pawns in a legal battle because she has no intent
She has no intent of actually living there. She doesn't actually want to live there. She just wants to punish these people for being racist. This is such a great analogy for the situation that we find ourselves in more broadly, okay? Because I'm not even saying that, you know, I explicitly sympathize with white supremacy. That's not the point. The point is that I think that anyone should be allowed to do that. White, black, based on anything, not even based on racial demographics. If you want to go form a communist compound out in the woods or a socialist compound or whatever, you should be allowed to do that. You know who else was a big proponent of the idea of voluntary self-segregation? You know who else thought that that was a really good idea? Malcolm X. Malcolm fucking X. To be fair, he didn't say segregation. He said separation, and I think that that is technically correct because I think segregation is a top-down division of people by like the government or somebody with a monopoly on violence. But Malcolm X was a powerful advocate for the idea that black people should be given or should buy a portion of America where they can go and do their own thing. And I actually think that that would have probably been better, or not because I don't want to be around black people, but because like if black people wanted to go off and form their own community. Also, Malcolm X was a huge proponent of like getting away from drugs and alcohol and seeking God. And, you know, I wonder why they had to kill him. But this is the point, is that we're once again, we find ourselves in this situation where cultural relativism is the highest moral imperative, and the only solution is that everyone has to be forced to live around everybody else all the time, regardless of whether their cultures are compatible or not. Because anything less than that is morally reprehensible, even if by doing so you inspire conflict and the total breakdown of society. And this proclivity for liberalism in the West is such a huge part of the reason. Yeah, here we go. Look at this. Crazy idea, but I want to be around people that generally share my culture and worldview. Yes. What a wild fucking idea. What a wild idea that I would want. And you know, that's how I live my life now. Like my two best friends, the people that I live with, are Egyptian and Filipino, because we have the same worldview. We have the same values. We have the same culture. And you know, if somebody told me that I had to live with them because my household wasn't racially diverse enough, I would take issue with it. But because I place more value on my culture than anything else, it's just how it ended up working out. And that's how it ought to be. But it isn't how it is. How it is we're forcing people of utterly incompatible backgrounds, demographics, cultures to live on top of each other, which can only contribute to the downfall of Western civilization. So, I'm not going to comment. White people are the only people that aren't allowed to self-segregate. Again, I think that everyone should be allowed to. I think that everyone should be allowed to self-segregate and live with whoever they want, wherever they want. Actually, you know what? I think I have I actually have that bookmarked. There's that Daryl Cooper. Daryl Cooper did an interview where he talked about this exact thing. We're going to play that in a second. Let me get to some supers real quick. I've got some catching up to do here. On Candace's YouTube comments, 95% pro Candace, only 20% pro Andro. On his own YouTube comment feed, very, very little obvious bot activity detected. By the way, I emailed you back like you asked. You missed it. I apologize, but I need to do better about staying on top of my email. I tell you what, after tomorrow, I'm going to hit inbox 0 and follow up with everybody. It's my fault. Like, I put my email out there, but I get inundated with emails that are like novellas that are like, here's 15 YouTube videos that you should watch if you want to learn more about Israel. And I'm like, all right, yeah, I will follow up. I appreciate you. Sorry for not getting back to you right away. I will do the Talmud. That is the plan. I think that maybe not my next video, but it depends on how the interview goes. But I'm going to interview that guy on Tuesday, and we'll be doing a Talmud video here in the very near future. And just based on what I've already looked into, it's going to be horrific. Might be my first community strike. I guess we'll have to find.
I guess we'll have to see. To fiddle the dead. Oh. I already knew that, but it's just, it's sad to be, it's unfortunate to be reminded that, yeah, it's, diddling the dead, diddling kids, you know, whatever. They, you know, they're God's chosen people. Why shouldn't they be allowed to? It's fine. Anyway, did you see Tyler Olivier's video on the invasion of Orthodox Jews? Yeah, I did. I did a video. That was my poop knife video. Yeah, go back and watch my poop knife video. I actually, I heavily borrowed from his interview with the Orthodox Jewish people that were justifying their welfare dependency. I borrowed from his video. It's a great video. He did a really good job with it. But yeah, go check out the poop knife video. It's a very, it's a good one. Look into the Sackler family and the reason the opioid and fentanyl crisis happened. I'm sure you can guess their religion. I don't know if they're connected. Oh, well, I mean, let's see. You know what? We'll do it live. Let's find out. I'm actually curious. Are the Sacklers... Let's just do, are the Sacklers Zionist? The Sackler family is of Jewish heritage, but they are not publicly defined or known as politically or ideologically Zionist. Certain family members of foundations have donated to Israeli academic institutions like Tel Aviv University. Their public prominence and philanthropy are defined by their medical and... their philanthropy. Descends from Jewish immigrations from Poland and Ukraine. Supported educational, culture, and medical causes globally, which included donations. Okay, so it seems like, at least based on this very top level. So Gemini is actually pretty decent about sharing whether or not certain individuals are pro-Zionist or not, because it thinks Zionism is awesome. So it's actually usually pretty good about being like, oh yeah, there's totally Zionist. Yeah, absolutely. So if it says no, then yeah, probably not. Or at least like if they have a connection to Israel, then it isn't widely known according to Gemini. Israel is like Amazon HQ, Palestine branches US. Yeah. Yep. I'm inclined to agree. I don't meaningfully differentiate between the U.S. and Israeli governments anymore. I think they're like I said before, two cheeks of the same ass. But whatever that is, whatever the thing is that's running those two governments, it really, really finds Israel to be really important for some reason. Tagged you in a relevant thing on X. Okay, I will check that out once the stream is over. Thank you, brother. $20. Thank you very much. I agree. Brett, I think, isn't the same as Eric. Wrote 2001 ILO paper. Weinstein published a paper for UN titled Migration for the Benefit of All Towards a New Paradigm for Migrant Labor. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Here's the thing. Brett, Eric is a scumbag as far as I can tell. And I'm not a fan of Eric. But Brett, I think he's very liberal, but he's been becoming more and more based and red-pilled as time goes on, as he realizes how fucking insane contemporary liberal wokeism is these days. I actually don't know what Brett's position is on immigration, but I would imagine that he probably has a very reasonable and nuanced position. So thank you very much for the $20. Appreciate you. Huge fan of your work, sir. Keep up the amazing work. The world needs to know about the true villains of this world. I agree. We are in a fight. Good and evil, my friend. We are in a fight, and all are called to do their part and use the gifts that have been given to them. So I would encourage you to do the same, and thank you for the $5. 10 memberships. Holy cow. Thank you very much. I don't know how to pronounce your username because it is gobbledygook, but I do appreciate the 10 memberships. Thank you very much. Another $5. Thank you very much. We recently gave Morocco $40 million and passed a bill to make Ceuta Morocco again. What do you think about Richard Nicholas, the Kalergi plan? If I'm going to comment on the Kalergi plan, I need to do that in a video, and I need to actually research and be very careful in my articulation of it.
that would fall into the category of things that are plausible, but I've not done enough prep work, and that I would like to have a script that I am reading from so that I can be very sure that I'm not saying anything that will get me thrown into YouTube jail. So I have to be careful. You know, same with the Talmud. I'm not going to talk about the Talmud during a live stream, guys, as much as I'm sure that would be a lot of fun. I did a little bit today, but like I really didn't get into the nastier stuff. But for anything super controversial like that, I need to have it written out and know exactly what I'm going to say before I say it. So I will get back to you on that. But thank you for the $5. Self-segregation will lead to self-governing, which means each community will require its own. Yeah. This is the cornerstone or foundational tenet of anarchism or voluntarism, which I absolutely subscribe to, which is the idea that people should be self-governance is the only legitimate form of governance, because it's the only form of governance which is voluntary for the most part. If you can choose which community you want to be a part of and actively participate in how its rules are enforced, then that is legitimate. And anything else, any top-down government, any centralized government in which you cannot meaningfully participate is like what we have right now in the US, where we cannot meaningfully participate. We are not meaningfully represented here in the US or in much of Europe. Again, we'll go back to those polls that I looked at earlier, where 80% of Europe hates Israel and 80% of European leaders love Israel. That's what you get. So make guillotines great again. Love watching your channel grow. I always learn something new and you make me laugh. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. All right. I'm all caught up. Let's do this Daryl Cooper Tucker interview. Also, really quick, by the way, guys, before we get to the Tucker interview, I got some pushback about Tucker. I just want to make it absolutely clear. I've said this before. I'll say it again. I do not trust Tucker further than I can fucking throw him. Okay? I believe that he probably has ulterior motives. I think that he definitely has ulterior motives. I think that the best possible case scenario with Tucker is that he represents a faction of the federal government which happens to be anti-Israel. But I do not believe that that faction, because they are anti-Israel, are pro-American people. Okay? And I fully expect that Tucker will at some point pivot into something that I find to be horrific, because I'm perfectly ready to be disappointed by everybody at this point. So I don't trust Tucker. It just so happens that he interviews a lot of really interesting people that I really like. I really like Daryl Cooper, and I really like to have his brain picked. And it just so happened that he was on Tucker, and I like listening to Daryl. So I'm gonna watch it and I'm gonna play it. This isn't a advocacy for Tucker. I don't have a personal beef with him. I think that the fact that we are aligned in our anti-Israel interests is probably coincidental, and I don't trust him beyond that. Okay? Fair enough? All right. Let's get into it.
For people to live historically in the sense that I just described it is something that is dangerous and to be targeted and broken down. And you saw this really on domestic social levels. I mean,
so a little bit of context, because I'm starting this like halfway through their interview. They were talking about the Ceuta invasion in Spain. They were talking about Israel's involvement in it. They both are they both came to the conclusion that Israel did it. Okay, so take that for what it's worth. Daryl is much smarter than me, and he thinks Israel did it. So, just take that for what it's worth, I guess. But that's what they're talking about right now. And they're talking about the use of mass migration as a weapon for political or, destabilizing force. That's the context, okay?
You see it. I mean, it's not as if that left-wing government in Spain is not part of the problem.
They're definitely
clearly
part of the
are. But here in the United States, you saw the effects of it over the course of the second half of the 20th century, where you had our cities back in the day that were sort of these organic communities with separate neighborhoods divided by ethnicity and religion that were not in conflict with one another. They had arrived at compromises over the years and ran their cities in an organic way. And people were part of, they were plugged into communities that watched them be born and that would watch them die, and that their kids would grow up in and know that their kids were going to grow up in. And they sensed themselves as these people. You know, they understood themselves as part of this living community that was going to continue on afterwards. So it was important for them to make sure that the things they inherited were given to the people that that came along after their period of stewardship. And over the course of the second half of the 20th century, I mean, it was official U.S. government policy, essentially, to use mass migration, generally of African Americans from the South, as bludgeon weapons to go in and break these communities up and drive these people out to the suburbs, drive them out to other areas where, you know, that old parish church that used to be all, Italian Catholics, you go drive through there now in Newark, and it's maybe some old grandmas who are still there, but everybody else lives 45 minutes away now, so nobody goes there anymore. And
So what he's describing right now is white flight. He's describing, and not even white flight necessarily, but just like historically, like communities in America which had achieved some level of equilibrium because all of the demographics had more or less reached a point of equilibrium where they all voluntarily self-segregated. They all voluntarily were in their little pockets of, okay, we got Irish Catholic over here, we've got white Protestant over here, whatever, and they all voluntarily self-segregate. And they had achieved equilibrium. They basically, they all got along to get along, you know, or go along to get whatever the term is. Anyway, and he's saying that the use of African Americans were pushed into these communities as a deliberate tool to break up these communities, to make them less dependent on each other and more dependent on the state. Okay? Which is a period of American history that I'm very much interested in looking more into. So
all of those communities were broken up by force very often and through violence indirectly, on purpose. And it was because they were looked at as something that was potentially, that when people are living in a way where they sense themselves as part of a larger project, the idea after World War II was that can and in fact will almost inevitably get out of hand. And out of
can't get out of hand in what way?
Well, the way that the Germans got out of hand. I mean, that's, the idea that they start taking themselves too seriously and thinking of their historical mission too seriously, and they start to act on it in the world in a way that is dangerous to others. That was the idea, right? And of course, there's only one group, at least in the Western world, that we decided that doesn't apply to, and it's because they were the ones who were the victims of the Germans. So the Israelis, the Jewish people in general, very much live historically, and their right to do that and ability to do that is, you could say it's the central and primary, certainly foreign policy, but even with a lot of domestic policies, mission of the U.S. government and the sort of Western European NATO system in general.
So when he says living historically, what he means by that, I think I'm interpreting here, but what he means by that are people who live in the way that we used to live, which was through voluntary, often racial and cultural segregation. Okay, that was the old school way of living. And guess what? It was remarkably stable. And it got us through a lot of human history. I think that's what he's saying. And what he's saying is that now the Jewish people are the only people that are allowed to live that way. Or at least as far as Western sensibilities are concerned, Jewish people are allowed to live that way. So
the central focus of that, which is very strange when you think about it, until you realize that we're living in the aftermath of Nuremberg. We're living in the aftermath of the Second World War, and we're probably coming up to the end of that cycle right now. I think that we're reaching the point where everybody who was around back then is gone. People who remember it directly and who have the real enthusiasm for it that was born out of direct experience is probably fading away. That seems to be the historical cycle. Every 80 to 100 years, things blow up again, and the crisis and trauma of that explosion sort of shapes the four generations that are alive during that period. You were either a young man who had to deal with it, you were a kid who watched your father deal with it, you were an old man who, and so as people go through the rest of their lives and they mature into other stages of life, they carry that with them, and it really shapes who people are for 80 to 100 years or so.
Real quick, wanted to address this comment. No, that isn't what I'm saying. I'm not saying that we should. What I'm saying is that people should be allowed to voluntarily self-segregate based on any fucking criteria they want. Whether that's racial, whether that's cultural, whether that's religious, whatever. You should be allowed to self-segregate and live around people that align with your values and your culture, or whatever you prioritize, whatever you think is worthy. Okay? You should be allowed to discriminate, is what I'm saying. I get that that's not a popular thing these days, but I am a discrimination absolutist. I think that anyone in business... Now, there's a difference between the private and public sectors in that regard. I think that the public sector, I think that in terms of the way in which whatever state apparatus we are enslaved by and subjected to, that should probably be colorblind. But as far as individual communities, as far as groups of people, you should probably be allowed to associate with whoever the fuck you want for whatever reason you want. That's all I'm saying. Okay? And I think that the world would be a much more cohesive place if people were allowed to do that, generally. Anyways.
And the Second World War, at least the myth of the Second World War, and by myth, I don't mean, that it's a lie, it's something that didn't happen, but, something that has taken shape in the cultural consciousness in a way that explains to people why things are the way they are, why power arrangements that exist now are necessary, all of
and
the
legitimate.
And legitimate, right? It underlies the legitimacy, exactly. And I think I said this on the episode that we had that got us in so much trouble, but
you said nothing wrong or
I know,
controversial.
yeah,
I've never, in 35 years of interviewing people, I've never had an interview so mischaracterized with that level of hysteria. It was like crazy. I would tell everyone who barked at me, like, actually, Daryl Cooper is a very moderate, kind of liberal-minded man who's like, means malice toward no one, wouldn't hurt anyone ever. Like, what are you even talking about? That was crazy.
I don't believe that Daryl is a libertarian. Only because in other interviews, I think that he's talked about his libertarian friends and that he doesn't align with them on stuff. I don't think he's a libertarian. I think that he is pretty liberal-minded, but he's very, he's reasonable. Like, this is the thing, is that wherever he is, I think he's a reasonable person, and I think that whatever conclusions he comes to, he has good reasons for doing it. But I don't think that I don't think that he would identify himself as a libertarian. Just wanted to really quickly.
Yeah, it was an interesting experience for sure. I've seen it happen to other people, but when it happens to you,
But I've never seen it happen on the basis of less.
Yeah, and with such a level of
say anything
with
bad.
such a level of ferocity too. It was crazy.
Well,
was
it just
intense.
tells you a hurt dog barks. Like, the lies that have attached like barnacles to the World War II story define our lives and do lend legitimacy to projects that are inherently illegitimate and anti-human and harmful. The post-war system is a disaster. I don't know if it's a worse disaster than the war itself, but it's certainly a disaster. Completely destroyed Western civilization. I don't know if it's fixable. And so I guess if you're one of the rare beneficiaries of that monstrous system, you've got a lot at stake.
Absolutely. And, the World War II narrative is one that, just look at the response that we had.
You know what's sad? I'm going to go back and I'm going to play that one little piece just real quick. Wait, how do I? Look at his face when because he's making reference to the conversation. I don't know if it was the last interview that they did or the one before that, but he got into a lot of trouble for questioning the orthodoxy surrounding World War II and the myths that we have surrounding World War II. And I want you to look at his expression when he considers talking about it again.
Monstrous system, you've got a lot at stake.
Absolutely. And, the World War II narrative is one that, Well, just look at the response that we had in that episode to something that I said that I thought was fairly anodyne.
That was a pained expression. You know what that expression was? That was the expression of a man who thinks that we should be able to just fucking talk about ideas openly, and who thinks it's ridiculous and painful and shameful that he has to self-regulate and say, you know, it's probably not worth it for me to speak freely. That's what that expression was. This is largely why I trust Daryl as much as I can trust anybody these days, is because I think that he's actually actively thinking through every step of his thought process is an active one. And it's such a shame that we're at a point in history where a man like this, who's very, from my perspective, very clearly, very intelligent, very clearly, very open-minded, very compassionate, wants what is good for other people, doesn't want to hurt anybody. And he has to self-censor to that extent. I think it's fucking tragic, honestly. By the way, great interview. For those of you that saw the interview between me and Benjamin Boyce, Benjamin Boyce also interviewed Daryl, and it was an amazing interview because they get into a lot of Daryl's background and why he thinks the way he thinks and all the trouble that he got into. If you'd like to learn more about Daryl and his perspective and his background, he has a very checkered background. It's very interesting how he came to be where he is. I would highly recommend going and checking out that interview between him and Benjamin Boyce. Very, very good interview. Anyway, I'll try to not interrupt again. Just want to watch a few more minutes.
Could have put it in less punitive terms, I guess, with a nod to all of my English friends out there. But the content of what we were talking about was not anything particularly extreme that you can't find in AJP Taylor or Pat Buchanan or something like that. But when you have a topic, a historical topic, that the slightest deviation can provoke that kind of a response, that sends a message out to everybody of how they have to handle this topic. You know, there's set about with taboos and, you know, forbidden areas that you're not supposed to
you don't have to live like a slave anymore? Yeah, that's dangerous, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, but when that happens, you're naturally, I mean, it's naturally going to be a topic that is just incredibly fertile because you have something that is relatively recent history that we have a ton of documentation on, that most people still know very little about what actually happened. And what they do know, a lot of it is not true, or it's, you know, true in a way that doesn't necessarily prove the point that they've been taught to think that it proves, you know? And so I figure we probably used to have, you know, we probably used to have similar myths around the American Revolution and things like that. But as our demography's changed over time, nobody really cares if you slander George
No one
Washington.
ever went to jail for having different views on the American Revolution. Okay, just to be clear.
Indeed. And so, you know, to me, look, every society, we need our myths.
I agree.
Right. But those myths, it comes back to what purpose they're serving. And there was a period of time throughout the 20th century that maybe you could have said the World War II myth.
I agree with this to an extent. I mean, okay, I think that we should stop bombing other countries generally, just because that's a horrific thing to do. And the overwhelming majority of the wars that we've been fighting over the last 50 years have been based on absolute bullshit. But I do think that this migration is being deliberately weaponized. I think that a combination of stopping the bombing campaigns and also like trying to bring these other countries in alignment with, you know, more liberal ideas, more free market driven ideas, things like that. If you lift people out of poverty, it goes a long way to make them less violent and less, I don't know, antagonistic towards you.
Look, there's something to the idea that really over the course of a single generation, we had this moral revolution that made it so that, you know, virtually everywhere. I mean, you go down to Birmingham, Alabama in 2026, and you drop an N-bomb in a 7-Eleven, And it's going to be a bunch of white people in there are going to look at you like, are you crazy? We don't say that anymore. Like, what are you talking about? And so that's a moral revolution that in part grew out of the Second World War and the myth of the Second World War and what it was about, that you would look at and say, you know, there's a positive development. It softened the way people look at outgroups and things. Great. But what does that myth, what purposes does it serve now?
Well, and what's the fruit of it? So Selma, Alabama is much worse than it was in 1965. Like for the black people who live there, Britain is much worse than it was in 1945. So is the United States. So if the system produces human misery and death, failure to thrive, debt, then like it's not legitimate. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I'm all about politeness in the face of myths. Like I'm not running around attacking,
which is why I do feel I
anybody else's religion.
When I made those comments about Churchill on that one, as anodyne as I think they were afterwards, I was like, I did wish I hadn't put it that way, because there are people out there that you know what I mean. I don't necessarily love FDR or Abraham Lincoln. But
FDR actually deserved a lot.
But
more
I don't.
criticism.
But I don't want to hear, you know, some Frenchman talking smack about him. So I get that.
I get it. No, but the point is, like, you go along with certain things that maybe it's not fully true or it's mischaracterized or whatever. But like, it's working. It inspires empathy between people, and we get along better. And like, I don't think you should call the fat girl fat. Actually, I think you should refrain from saying obvious things in the service of human understanding. Like, I'm not for using the N-word, actually. I'm just not. I never have. I'm never going to. Like, I get all that. But if obeying the lie, pretending to agree with the lie gets you modern Britain or modern Germany or modern America for that matter, like, why are we going along with this? This is all, like, this is what you get when you go along with a lie. Misery.
So I think that largely speaking, yeah, we can be done with Tucker. I agree. It's a little. I mostly watch it for Daryl, but the idea that they're talking about here is that it's the myth of the West. The myth of World War II is that we are a liberal democracy, and bring me your sick, your poor, your downtrodden, and that we should just have open arms. But it used to be that those open arms were conditional on people adopting the predominant culture. That used to be the way that it was. Is that when you showed up here, it's like, okay, you're from Ireland or Italy or Africa or South America or whatever. Okay, but you're going to fucking integrate. You're going to learn the culture, and the culture is predominantly based on sovereignty of the individual, rule of law. Used to be the way that it was. And it just isn't that way anymore. Now people just kind of show up, do whatever they want to do, create their own enclaves within the country, their own little miniature countries here. And this idea of having any kind of a predominant integration effort is actively discouraged against by certain people, certain demographics, let's say. And it's destroying us. It's destroying the West, largely. So anyway, that was it for that interview. I like listening to Daryl. I think he's a cool guy, and I appreciate everyone enduring. I saw a lot of people complaining about Tucker in the comments, so I appreciate you putting up with that. Let's do some supers, and then I think we're going to skedaddle, because man, we've been going on almost 4 hours now, and I need to take a break. Love your thinking about Tucker. He had fits when Huckabee compared U.S. to Israel on war crimes instead of apologizing for U.S. deeds, no humanity at all. Okay, so he had fits when Huckabee compared U.S. to Israel on war crimes instead of apologizing for U.S. deeds. Okay. To be fair to him, because I think I remember what you're talking about. I understand your perspective. I understand why you're taking issue with that. I take much greater issue with Huckabee. I have known many vets. I have known many, many, many American vets over the years. I've not known a single American vet who was as genocidal and psychotic as the average Israeli soldier. I've not known a single American vet to revel and celebrate the destruction of children or civilian infrastructure.
or the desecration of holy sites. So I do think that it is an insult to American servicemen and women to compare them to Israelis generally. Obviously, that is not a universal truth. Obviously, there are Americans that have done war crimes. War crimes have happened. But most of the crimes against humanity I lay at the feet of the bureaucracy and the political class, as opposed to the individual soldiers. When you compare that to the average Israeli soldier, there is a night and day difference. And I think if I'm remembering the part that you're talking about, that is what Tucker was pushing back against, and I agree with that, more so because I sympathize with the average American soldier. I think that most of them are not genocidal and psychotic in nature in the same way that Israeli soldiers are. Anyway, I'm repeating myself. I get where you're coming from with that, but when comparing those two men, Huckabee can literally eat my entire dick, and I would not cry if he keeled over tomorrow, because he's just a massive piece of shit, and he does so much damage to the idea of being a Christian. Every time he opens his mouth, it is a shame. It is a blight on what Christianity could be without men like him. So, amen about not believing the government as your primary instinct. Yeah, I think it's a decent starting position. It's a decent first principle. Wish I had that instinct before I was injected with experimental vax. Now I know one thing to be true. The government lies all the time about everything. Yeah, I mean, there's only so many times. I mean, like, there's only so many times that you can be lied to by any particular entity before you realize there's no accountability. They don't get in trouble when they lie. They don't get in trouble when they kill or steal or cover up a massive child trafficking ring. There's no accountability. You can't trust somebody that is not held accountable for lying. Any more than you can trust a pharmaceutical company if it does not have any legal liability for the safety of its products. There have to be disincentives in place to make corporations or governments accountable. And if there aren't, then the only safe assumption is to distrust. So, thank you for the $10. Appreciate you. All right, guys, that is it for the super chats. I need to go eat something. I should probably eat something before I start these 4-hour-long lives. I don't intend to go for 4 hours. I get to talking and I enjoy it. If you guys hang out for like 3 more seconds, I will go and grab Mamba and give her a brief little cameo appearance. She's behind my desk. Hang on 1 sec. I'll go grab Mamba. Gotta give the people a cameo. I know. Oh, it's a baby. Oh, it's a baby. Oh, the baby. Mamba cameo. You want to say hi? She says hi. She's been a sleepy baby. Yeah, she didn't leave. She was just, for whatever reason, she wanted to crawl up behind my desk and sleep over there, I guess, because she's a little bit closer to me. Hey, sweetie. She would love to be in my lap the whole time, but she likes to rub her face against the mic, which is a little disruptive. It makes recording a little challenging. But Void Girl, yes. Yeah, she loves all of you, too. Yes. She is the best. She is the best baby. Hey, sweetie. Anyway, hey, I appreciate all of you very much. This was a lot of fun. Sorry, I kind of went on some weird tangents there, but I appreciate everyone tolerating that for a little while. Please remember, I am hiring. I would like to hire somebody to help with my YouTube packaging. So my thumbnails, my descriptions, my titles, and all of that. Like, help me with the A/B testing. Help me to get better at that. Because there's a lot of videos that I have that like had really good metrics, but really poor CTR. If you know what that means and you know what it means, really poor click-through rate, but really good retention metrics once people did click through. So I need to work on my packaging, and I also need to, I just need to work on that. And I need someone to edit and do shorts content, like shorts clip, both horizontal and vertical. So please. 9,000 Israeli applications incoming. Yeah, I doubt that. So if you know anybody,
please send them my way. Again, I'll put the email up on the screen. MrQuigley33@gmail.com. Please reach out. Oh, are you snoring? You want to do that into the mic? No? Okay. Please send them my way. I would very much appreciate that. Thanks to everybody. Oh, no, she's done. Okay. All right. No more of that. She didn't like me trying to shove her face in the microphone. I don't blame her. I appreciate all of you very much. And we'll see you next time. Thanks for hanging out. Everyone have a good day. Love you all very much.